Hey, this is me in post with a cat in a sweater, but I do want to say, as you probably noticed when you clicked on this video, that is 3 times the length of my usual videos. That's just being that we both had the free time. We did plan to go an hour, but we just kept going. Um, anyway, you also might notice near the second end of this video that I end up becoming very combative towards what's being said. Not because of me just wanting to be combative, but usually when I go into these videos, I am asked to or not I'm asked, but my idea is to just make it a general interview, and I try to not push back even if I have a personal disagreement. But during this video, about around, I'm going to take a guess, 2 hours or somewhere, you'll just find out when you see it, I am asked to, instead of just doing an interview, to actually have a conversation where I speak about my disagreements, and yeah, that's what you're gonna see. Anyway, have a great video. Welcome to the third episode of How to Change the Conversation. Here we are today with Manar. Manar, is that what it's pronounced?
Manar, yes, Manar.
How are you doing today?
What's up, my brother? Very happy to be here. Thanks so much for inviting me. Would love to have a nice conversation with you. Hopefully, me and you, we evolve through this and grow. Really excited to be here.
So the main point of contention we wanted to bring up today was Israel, because you believe that there's a very vast history of systematic racism. So how would you define systematic racism, and how does it manifest in the context of Israel?
So, in the way I would define systematic racism is basically how every international group and even the UN would define it. Well, they do define it in different ways, actually. So, there's two ways you can define racism. One is that the systemic oppression and changing your laws against groups of ethnicities, and when you do that, so this is the thing. This description of systemic racism is a little bit weird because there's two ways to explain it. So I'm going to go ahead and read it exactly out loud. The UN describes it, and then we're going to talk about it. So systemic racism, there's two different ways. There's ways that the Israelis, so I don't know how to word this, but what it is you either, here, I'm just gonna read it
I was gonna say,
exactly
if you
from
gotta put
the
up word for
United
word, I
UN.
was gonna say that's probably the best way.
Yeah, man, the problem is there's two ways that they define it, and when you define it one way, for some reason Israel is not discriminatory. It's showing basis of being ethno-state, for example, but it's not discriminatory. But then when you describe it another way, it's actually extremely discriminatory. I actually want to use the actual words that the actual administration, United Nations use. So give me one moment on this, but yeah, man, I'm gonna actually describe to you exactly where this word systemic racism. So the UN Watch, so Amnesty International and UN Watch, they both use the same reportings. So a system of apartheid for Amnesty International is a system institutionalized regime of oppression and domination by one racial group over another. So if you use this as a definition, immediately you can clearly see that there's systemic oppression, because in Israel there's many different laws again that allow Israelis, for example, to buy certain areas of land, and Jews can buy any area of land that's occupied right now, whereas Palestinians are not allowed to buy certain pieces of land, and it's only because of their actual nationality. It's only because of that piece of paper that says on them that declares that they are Palestinian in nationality. There's also, for example, Israeli citizens are allowed the right of return. Okay, so you're allowed to go back to your home country as a Jew anytime you want to Israel, and that's totally normal. But as a refuge, if you, like, for example, right now, all these people they're kicking out and they're trying to ask Egypt to come take, where are these going to go? They're going to go to Egypt, right? So after they go to Egypt, they have no right of return as a Palestinian person. That's why they're toppling their whole neighborhood down. They don't want to give them any ways to come back to, and they don't have a right for return. So there's, when you use the actual Amnesty International systemic oppression definition, it's clear that there is systemic apartheid. Like if you use the definition for apartheid in that Amnesty International uses, it's very clear there's systemic racism in Israel against Palestinians. But now the Israelis will come here and start arguing with me. Well, there's another definition where it's not apartheid, where we are declared a state, and then whoever doesn't follow the declaration is against the laws. So we are allowed to basically do anything we want to make them follow the law again. And that one is, to me, I don't believe that that's 100% a clear definition, because uh, who gave you the right to create that law? Or you have to look at the history of what the declaration was, and there's a lot of different nuances for that. So if you're just using, oh, the law legality as a systemic, or no, we were lawfully given this area. Well, the British lawfully asked you to leave in 1947, and you actually kicked the Brits out. So is that I mean, is that part of the law? Is that legal what you did? So that's my explanation of systemic racism. It was a little bit long, but what it is it's basically oppression of one racial group over any other racial group. So, and it's clear that the Jewish nation Israel, it's clear it declares itself as an ethno state, as a Jewish state. So it doesn't only declare itself as ethnic, it also gives its Israeli citizens, its Jewish citizens, a preferable treatment over Palestinians that live in that area, that same area. And let me give you one more reason why I believe there's systemic racism happening in Palestine. What happened was, when the Balfour Declaration was created and was sent to Lord Rothschild by Balfour in 1917, he said that the Balfour Declaration stated that the actual location for the Jewish state is going to be Palestine, but it never ever stated what's going to happen to the Palestinians. The majority of that piece was already owned by the Palestinians, and what never ever explained what are we going to do to the Palestinians. In my opinion, they already knew from the beginning they're going to have to do something bad. They didn't want to state it out loud. And it was so bad that even Brits actually tried to kick out the Jews and actually tried to stop the Jewish state from expanding the partition. I don't know if you know anything about the 1947. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about this. That's when the Brits got kicked out of Israel, and the United Nations took over Israel. But yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, when you use my definition of apartheid, it's 100% there's systemic oppression. You have no right to return as a Palestinian, but you do as a Jewish person. As a Jewish person, you can buy lots of pieces of land, much more, 80%, I think, more than the Palestinians can. Palestinians don't have a lot of problems when creating permits for, sorry, actual Israelis have problems when creating permits for their spouses to come into Israel and live with them, for their children to come into Israel to live with them. So what it does is actually fractions families from each other, okay? It's extremely dark what I'm talking about, and yeah.
Yeah, no, let me just say, if you ever feel like you're going long in the answer, this is like one of the most complex issues there is like today. Like, obviously, I don't expect you to answer these in 3 minutes, especially when I ask you a question like systematic racism, how you defined it. That's something that's been fought over for the last 40 years, right? It's going to be very difficult to elaborate on your answer for that. And then I do want to talk about with that, how do you think that Israel is going to, like, do you think they're going to keep pushing for this? Is that their end goal? And like, what do you think is, like, when it comes to systematic racism, what do you think are they going to keep striving towards pushing for it? Or are they going to try to regress now that there's a bigger eye on them? What do you think is going to happen?
Amazing question. Thank you. I think for this question, we need to know what the history of the creation of Israel was. So it started with Herzl, 1897, I believe, 1896. For some reason, I don't know what happened. He decided he wants to create a Jewish state, okay? He was able to convince other Jews and create the first Jewish Congress in Sweden, or like somewhere like that. It was Basel. And he said in Basel, we have to create a Jewish state because we're getting, we're being, everybody's racist to us in Europe. We're getting hated. We have to create a Jewish state. This is the only way we can succeed as Jews. So what happened was, when Herzl did that, Congress, immediately since that Congress, they started investing into creating this Jewish state. That's why this Jewish state is one of the strongest. And now we understand a little bit about the conspiracy theories. Oh my God, the Jews have money. Okay, but what happened is all they did was they started extremely heavy investing into creating this Jewish state. That's why Rothschild was a big part of it. Now, I don't know why did they do this. I guess they were being prosecuted in Europe. I'm not sure what the deal was. But at that point in time, they didn't know what the Jewish state is going to be. What they didn't know, they just were trying to convince people. So Herzl did his job. 1914 starts a World War I against the Ottoman Empire. They get rid of the Ottoman Empire. Brits and all the other imperialists, they gather the Arabs and convince them to go against the Ottomans and to help the Brits, and then they get their own countries, okay? So the Brits come in, the Brits and other imperialist countries like France and other countries, I think Italy as well, and they all came in. World War One, got rid of the Ottoman Empire. They succeeded. Now they have to partition lands. That's when the British got the mandate of Palestine. Palestine was never Palestine before. Palestine was just the transatlantic or trans-Palestine, whatever it is. It included Jordan in it. But what happened was after 1917, they had to partition the land to whoever they promised it, to whoever the leaders of the Arabic world that they helped, they promised, they gave the lands. And British got the Middle East, and so that's what the British mandate is. Okay, now we know a little bit more about the history. So what happened is, when the British got the land, that's when 1917. That's when Balfour declares that the Brits already owned the land, and that's when the Balfour declares, okay, to the Rothschild, we do the Balfour Declaration, declares Palestine to be the Jewish state. Okay, that's the first time the name Palestine ever appeared next to a Jewish state. So you have to understand there's a big long-term history that comes to this conflict. It didn't start today. It started like very, very deep, and it has extreme roots in imperialist nations and other nations that had other reasons to invade other countries. So they were already trying to topple the world, and so this was all integrated together. So what happened was, now the Arabs got their own states, but also the Jews got their own state as well, because they had really good relations. I don't know how Herzl did it, but because of his investments, he started digging deep into the other people's governments and other countries' governments and politicians. So, anyways, he has really strong support, and even the Brits support Jewish state, the creation of the Jewish state. So they invite them over. They tell them, you can come. The Balfour Declaration declares it, and that's when the start of the Jewish colonies start, 1917, okay? From 1917 all the way to 1939, non-stop violence, non-stop attacks. The Palestinians are oppressed here, but because the British already ruled Palestine, so they never gave Palestinians back their rule. They still were over mandated Palestine. And then what happened was, the Jews were coming in. They were also under British rule, but they were a little bit more lenient on them. They were defending them. They were helping them. They understood that they're trying to take care of them because of the Holocaust, whatever. So they understood there was a little bit of weariness next to the Jews, and they were taking care of them. What happened was, after a couple of years, after 20 years, 1939 comes through, and now the British are seeing insane amounts of violence. The Jewish colonies are increasing nonstop. Nonstop investment has been pushing into Israel or Palestine at that time. There was no Israel yet. And there was nonstop. This is before the 1948 lines. Okay, nonstop investment into Israel, nonstop money, nonstop. And what happened was, I don't know how, but the Jewish militia grew extremely strong. So what happened is, the Britons started realizing, whoa, these Jewish militias are actually really strong, and the Palestinians are complaining nonstop. They're having a lot of issues. They're getting attacked by random militias. Random people are getting attacked. So they wanted to stop it. So they started putting laws against the Jews. That's the first time the Jews started feeling the laws against them. Like, for example, here I wrote a couple of things here. For example, they told them, you cannot expand any further. Stop expanding. Then they also asked them, get away from some of these lands that you expanded, because what the British were thinking, we need to bring this back to one state rule. So even the Brits that ruled over Palestine mandated Palestine, realized, oh my God, when the Jews and the Arabs came together, they were so anti each other. For some reason, the Jews did not want to live next to the Arabs, and the Arabs, they invited the Jews over, but the Arabs now are feeling extreme animosity, and they're getting attacked, and so they are like, stop expansion, complete expansion, and we're gonna try to actually stop the state of Israel anymore. Or what it is, the plan was to make one state and both people live underneath. Okay, so that was the plan. So even the Brits tried to do this, not only me. What happened was, the Jews exploded. I'm telling you, they got really mad. Look into this. Look into the history of 1947. start bombing Palestinian locations, attacking British forces. They have militias, they have guns, they don't care. They're shooting everybody around. They're actually very strong because of all the investment they have. And so the state, the Brits, look what happened. The Brits ran away, ran out because 1947 was World War II just ended. There were barely any money left. They were really running out of forces, and they were just like, man, we're tired. We want to get away from here. And what happened was the League of Nations at the time, at that time was United Nations, headed by Rothschild, took over, mandated Palestine, and actually gave the partition to the Jews. They realized, okay, whoa, there's so much violence the Jews are doing. We should just give them the partition. The partition was 55% of the land to the 2/3 of the Jews. So to 2/3 of the population, the Jewish population. So basically 25% took 55% of the land. And obviously the Palestinians, that did not seem fair. So from then on, there was a lot of animosity, and they kept expanding. The Jews never stopped expanding, and the Palestinians never got their own force. What happened was in 1948, when the Jews got the partition, they even got more of what they asked for. They didn't get 55%; they got almost 75%, 78%, because they were able to bring in more militias, more forces, and that's when the IDF was created, 48. And so since 48, they've been trying to fight back for their land because they believe that every land since 48, since the partition, is illegal. Okay, now you understand a little bit more about the history. The Palestinians and the Arabs completely, look, we agreed you can come in as a Jew, stop by, hang out with us, but to come here and kick me out of my home, they'd never agreed to this, right? So 1948 created a lot of issues. And then 1967 came in. So for 20 years, they're building strongholds, they're colonizing their settlements. They don't ever stop, right? And they're building their legal system. They're bringing in more Jews. They're investing much more. The Holocaust happens in World War II, and now they have a good reason to bring in all these Jews. And an immense amount of Jews come in. And this is what created the 1967 wars, the Six-Day Wars. What happened was 1967, the Jewish state wanted to expand. They were worried that they were too close. Syrian forces were getting too close to them. They were bombing them from the north, and then from the south, or like the southwest. Egypt was coming in, and they were trying to come in and take Sinai. So what happened was the Jews were actually amazing. They expanded both southwest and northeast all at the same time. It's absolutely insane, and they were successful. They were actually successful. What happened was they had much more weaponry, they had much more advanced technology, and they were just more successful. And they beat the Egyptians so hard that the Egyptians immediately surrendered and capitulated and accepted their peace agreement because they wanted the Sinai. They still wanted the Sinai. It was a big part. And what happened was Syria had to surrender as well. And that's when the Six-Day War ended, and that's when the Golan Heights got taken over. But what I'm telling you is, I share with you this history because today is 2024, and the expansion never ever stopped. Okay, the expansion never ever stopped. So it started from 1897, maybe even before that. I don't know what Herzl was thinking about. I don't know why he would start this conversation. I'm sure something else started it. Not really clear on that history. But since 1897, there's been a force, I don't know what it is, an invisible force pushing, trying to get the Palestinians, or at least the Jews, into Palestine. I don't know what they wanted to do. They never ever mentioned what they wanted to do about Palestinians, but they knew that the majority of the land was owned by the Palestinians. When they're partitioning the land, the British knew that this was going to create a lot of issues because the majority was Arab, and you're giving the majority of the land to the Jews, which were a minority at the time, and they stopped it. But they could, the expansion just never stopped. Even when the British tried to legally stop the expansion, they had to get kicked out and they had to leave. So to me, to come here and for you to ask me, why are they doing this systemic racism? Would they ever stop? To me, I think the reason they do systemic racism is it's very clear. I just read this part here in the Supreme Court of Israel, which they were explaining, why do we still not allow people or Israelis to let their spouses come in, and why do we create a lot of issues for them? And they explained in the ruling, it's because they wanted human rights are not above. Um, being alive, basically, is what they said. They stated that human rights are not above being alive. So what that says to me is they can throw everything they've ever stood for, everything they've ever fought for, democracy, all of that. They can throw it all out the window the second they mention national security, or oh my God, we're gonna die. Oh my God, we're gonna be gone. That's all they have to say, and they can just absolutely demolish everything in front of them because oh my God, we were gonna die. Until now, we see it. October 7 is the same thing. Oh my God, we were gonna die, and now we can just absolutely kill 30,000 kids. So to me, I believe this is they use discrimination and racism on purpose as a whim. Like that's their cover to take over, and it doesn't seem like they're ever going to stop. Even when British tried to stop them in 1948, when they weren't super strong, 1947. They still weren't able to stop the expansion. They forced the expansion on the United Nations and on the British. Until now, the United Nations is asking them to get away from certain locations like the Julian Heights and the certain Egyptian areas, and they will not. They will not back away from those. And till now, the United Nations is recognized these illegal settlements. How, you can tell me how they're going to ever stop? They'll never stop. Why would they ever stop? Even if the United Nations recognizes these are illegal, as if there is no force, if there's nobody grabbing their hand, twisting it, there's nothing that will stop them. Nothing. They've never ever. Actually, Balfour declared when he was taking over Palestine, we will never ask the people that already lived in that country for what their opinion ever. So that's why everything was going through the Zionist party. Nothing. They never asked the Palestinians, "What do you want? What do you appreciate? What would you like to happen?" Never. They never even asked the Jewish Arabs or the Jewish, the Jewish Israelis. They never asked them anything. The Zionists completely ruled over that land and completely made every single decision for the Palestinians, for them. And of course, that's going to really anger the Palestinians. And the Palestinians see it. They see it clearly. There's no way for this to ever stop. And we tried. We tried diplomacy. They didn't stop. There's something else there that's pushing them through.
Yeah, especially with like now with Benjamin Netanyahu, we see that like the expansion of the settlements is just such a big issue because he's such like a far right leader when it comes to Israel. He just keeps going with those as much as everyone's telling him. Like that makes your side look very bad. But I do think about with like
But now
pastimes.
you know why. Now you know why whenever, like, you have to understand that when they created the state of Israel, Herzl's picture was on top, like right behind them. So they have this ideology that they're following, the Zionist ideology, and nothing is, for some reason, nothing will stop that ideology. We've tried force, and we've tried diplomacy, we've tried everything. The only really the only thing that's left is to just absolutely annihilate it. That's my opinion, but like,
How do you combat the argument with that, with being, with the expansions that we see through all the way up to like 1987? We, like beforehand, they've always said like, well, the expansions that they had in 1960 were because of the Suez Crisis, with the Six-Day War happening in 67. Then in 1973, you had the surprise attack from Egypt and Syria. How do you think, like, do you think that's just them like poking Palestinians, and then once they attack, they use that as an excuse to take more land? Is that like, how do you view that?
I know exactly what happens. What happens is the Israelis, they're super close to bordering Arab lands. And the Arab lands there's a lot of tension. So those borders, there's a lot of tension. Everybody has guns on those borders. And the Israelis don't like that. They don't like that tension. And so what happens is they're always consistently trying to expand and move away those forces. They're just always trying to push those forces away from them as many miles as they can. And every time they push, for example, the 1967 lines, they pushed so far, it was almost only like 40 miles away from Damascus, like 35 to 40 miles away from Damascus. So that's their goal every time, is when they expand, is to just push those lines a little bit further, to expand a little bit of Jerusalem. Why? To give them a little bit more breathing room. So the guns are a little bit further away from them. You get me? From the border. So that's a big reason. It's a national security thing. So you can never stop it. You'll never ever stop it. This is what they need to do. They believe this is the only way they can survive. They believe if they stay in the certain lines that they were already partitioned, that they will actually lose. They'll be choked out. So they actually have to continuously expand, continuously force those forces backwards, and and try to just never let anybody get comfortable. They're trying to never let any Arabic nation around them stay comfortable. So this is why I actually believe that Israel is this destabilizing force, and why I actually argue that America is using Israel. That's why it has nonstop defense for Israel. They're using Israel so they can expand on this imperialist warfare, their imperialist goals, because it's actually really helping them. They're able to use Israel as a destabilizing force for everybody. Now, you ask me, do they use Palestinians? Do they like poke into the Palestinians? Palestinians bomb into them and then they go in. Honestly, even if the Palestinians never bombed into them, they're still going to go in. I've seen it. Like, for example, 1967, there was bombing, but it wasn't like it is now, where it's there's actual factions that are only created just to attack Israel. It was basically the Syrian army bombing into its like right from its border, right into the north of Israel, and that was enough. That was enough to push them through. And so, yeah, you're right. They do poke into the Palestine. They do, for example, use Hamas as a reason to poke in. But in my opinion, they only do that so they can get like more. I don't know what it is, but in America they use posturing and they use the media like as the number one reason for sources. Like for example, for the Ukraine war, I noticed in the Ukraine war, AOC never ever pushed away from the mainstream narrative ever. Like she never opened a book to read. She never ever looked into Jackson Hinkle's streams. Like there's so much different sources you could see that Ukraine has been attacking the Donbass for a long time, but for some reason she believes that Russia just wants to go in and kill Ukrainians just for fun, and then they want to take out the Polish. And whose narrative was that? That was the mainstream media narrative. So what happens is, I believe that they do that so because the Congress in America, it takes its orders based on what the mainstream media says. So what happens is, this is what happens. They want to take Julian Heights from Syria. What they do is they start bombing into the border non-stop. Okay, they're non-stop bombing into the border of Syria. Syrians, well, what the hell? You just took our airport. You just took our two of our bases. You took 30 of our men. We're gonna shoot back. They start shooting back immediately. Two civilians. The media immediately finds after. Israel shells two bases in Syria, and Syrians retaliate, killing 33 Israeli soldiers, whatever. So now in the Congress, they get this piece of media saying, "Oh my God, look, the Israelis are bombing into the Syrians are bombing into Israel, even though they did it as a retaliation. It doesn't matter if there's a bomb into Israel. That's what matters to them." Because you have to understand, America, it's normal for America to fly drones over Yemen. It's only a problem when Yemen shoots down the drone, okay? So this is how they believe. The imperial force, they believe that the world belongs to them, and it's only a problem when you shoot us down. So so what happens is it's not a problem when Israel is bombing into Syria. That's totally normal. But it's only a problem when Syria bombs back, and that's what the news media immediately shoots that out to the Congress. The Congress immediately uses that piece of media to start creating laws, and I believe it. I believe it 100%. I saw it during Ukraine. That's exactly how they did Ukraine, and now we see why it's so important for them to keep October 7 alive, because right now there's so much hatred from the public, but the Congress, that's the only way they can give support, is by using the October 7 story. So it's very interesting that you say, do they poke into them and then they use that? Yeah, there's a part of it that's the story. Half of the story is that they poke into them, but the other half is it doesn't matter if they poke or not. This is the goal from the beginning. They want to take over more territory from the border Arabic nations to completely stay safe and to keep destabilizing the nations around. They don't want Syria to be strong. They don't want Syria to be strong. They don't ever want Syria to be strong. They don't ever want Egypt to never be under the the Israeli diplomacy. They want to stay diplomatically engaged with Egypt. Doesn't matter why. Why are they doing this? Because they need to keep control of these nations. They can't just let them gather together, because they've seen it happen before in 1967. I believe now the Arabic nations are much stronger. Before the Jews were much stronger. Now the Arabic nations are much stronger. It's almost like a second wind, and they have the same weaponry, they have the same drone, they have everything. So now there's even more of a reason for why Israel needs to push those forces backwards. So It's you're right. There's part of it that they poke in and they try to get some narrative going through so they can get more support. The other part is they're actually extremely scared. They're terrified. They need these people away from them and destabilized so they don't come back and take their what they believe is theirs.
Yeah, it's weird to see that we're kind of seeing like a change in like how America views this conflict. Where in the beginning it seemed like it was sending a lot of support to Israel, and now for once we're actually finally seeing America start leaning towards giving some aid to Gaza, as we're starting to see with the airdrops. How do you view that? Like, what do you think the West should be doing in this conflict?
Man, I'm actually really surprised. I think they're doing much. I think Anthony Blinken should just resign. I think he should stop. He's actually completely corrupt. He has a private business. He's a lobbyist basically. He's private business that it takes money from corporations to defense contractors basically, and to capitulate their defense contracts, basically push in the he's a lobby. He literally has a business of lobbying for defense contractors in Washington, and now he's the head of state. It's extremely scary. If you're asking me, how do you think, how is corruption happening in America? This is how corruption happens. Anthony Bling is being paid privately by corporations to lobby for them, and now he's the Secretary of State of the United States of America, making every major decision for all the weapons and who we're going to buy from and who we're going to pay the money and where we're going to go send it to. So I think America is doing too much, man. I think Anthony Blinken needs to resign. I think America needs to stop giving money. You have to understand, Viktor Orban has said this in a Tucker Carlson interview. Viktor Orban is PM, Prime Minister of Hungary. At the time of the Ukrainian war, he was talking to Tucker Carlson. He's like, he's saying, and this is why I keep saying AOC is the only reason the Ukrainian war is still happening, because he said, "Do you know today if the U.S. stopped sending money and weapons to Ukraine, the war is over tomorrow? That's it." He said, "Today, if they stop sending weapons and aid, tomorrow the war is over in Ukraine. Tomorrow." He didn't say in a week. He said tomorrow if they stop today. That's how that's how deep the United States is entrenched in keeping these, like that's how deep these Israel and Ukraine needs these countries. So I'm really worried. Anthony Blinken is the head of state. No wonder this war happened during Anthony Blinken's reign, because they can take as much now weapons that they need, because Anthony Blinken is 100% Zionist, 100% corrupt. And so it's very scary to me, man. I really wish America would do less. They're the only reason that the conflict is still happening in Ukraine, and now I really do believe that they are the only force allowing Israel to stay alive. If America stops giving any aid to Israel, Israel has to capitulate to the Arabic nations around them. Israel will never ever be able to stand by itself. That's why Netanyahu keeps the pressure on America. That's why there's a lot of they always talk crap about each other, and that's why a lot of politicians in America always have to pledge allegiance to Israel, because of the history of Israel. Like I told you, from this beginning of Herzl, when he did this Congress, I don't know how he did it, but he was able to convince really strong people together, and since then they never stopped. So they need to stop giving the aid. I believe America is the only reason Israel is still murdering people. So you're telling me America's sending aid? Okay, that's cool, but America's also sending 2,000-ton bombs, like 2,000 or 2-ton bombs, and thousands of trucks and cars and Humvees and Uzis, and they're supplying all the weapons to Israel. So I know they're supplying some aid to Palestine, but they are supplying the most amount of weapons to Israel as well. So I would love for them to stop sending aid and weapons, to be honest with you. But hopefully they just stop sending weapons.
Yeah, it's like a very interesting outlook. Like, how much is like if you send like 100,000 meals, like how much are those meals worth if you're sending bombs to the other side, right? Like, it's like, oh, you're sending meals to help civilians, but also here's a 2-ton bomb that won't be able to pick out what's a military person and what's a civilian, right? So, and I do know with you, you have a very unique view when it comes to like the general view in the West. You do think that there is a downfall in the West coming. How much do you think this plays into it? Do you think this is one of the biggest contributors? Is the corruption going on?
Hey, you know what? That's a really good question, man. You're a very smart guy, man. I really like you. That's crazy. You know what's so crazy? I really believe that this conflict opened in a lot of eyes. And it's a joke to me. I say this to everybody around me that says, "Oh my God, can you believe what's happening in Gaza?" I say to them, "Yeah, we've known about this for 100 years. Today you wake up. Today is the first day you've ever heard about it. Today, this is your first day figuring this out. But we've known about this for 50 years, 100 years, right? This is an Arabic problem as much as it's a Palestinian problem. Of course, they're the ones having the most amount of problems. But of course, it's a Syrian issue as well. It's an Egyptian issue. It's an Arabic issue. So we as Arabs, we felt this problem for a long time. But for some, it's amazing to me. I always laugh whenever a Westerner comes to me. Oh my God, can you believe what's happening in Gaza? Yeah, I can. It's unbelievable, but I can. But you know what's so amazing about it is this is the first time in history I get people like I go to the mosque now to eat for fasting. When you break your fast during Ramadan, usually your biggest mosque in your city will break your fast for you. Like basically they pay to feed you. So they'll give you food. Like you just go in after the prayer of Maghrib and you get food. So whenever I go now, I see a lot of white faces. Usually it's Indians, usually it's Syrians. You'll see them, you'll know them, Lebanese. But now I'm seeing a lot of white faces. So recently I talked to this dude. His name's Talon. 17 years old. 17 years old. Listen to me. 17 years old. Saw the conflict that's happening in Palestine. Started asking questions. 17 years old, started asking questions, and 2 weeks ago became Muslim. I was like, what? That's unbelievable. The bravery, first of all, then the smartness, then he told me he was the first person in his whole family. So, like, not just intelligent, brave, but so young too. Like, oh my God, like something crazy. But it's giving people, it's giving these Americans a choice. It's giving them possibilities. I think the Americans used to believe like this is the only way we were able to live. We were forced to live, occupied. Oh, I can't eat. I gotta go to work. I gotta do this. I can't even help. I don't have health care, whatever it is. They always have this issue. They always have this problem. But then they go and look at the Gaza conflict and they see all these Gazans exploding left and right. Kids are dying. They're playing with stones. Then they look back and they're like, man, you know what? I'm living an amazing life. You know what I mean? It gives them hope. It gives them more options. You know what I mean? And then they're like, man, maybe I can actually change my state. Let me start actually questioning. Let me start thinking about this. And so I'm actually seeing a big change in. I'm not gonna say the necessary ideology because the ideology is entrenched. Okay, you have to understand it's from the school systems. You guys are liberal as hell. You guys like if I say we should segregate schools, boys and girls, you'll be like, what? That's weird. Like I believe in that. You know what I mean? Because you're integrated so deeply into this liberal system that some ideologies will never ever go away from you. But other ideologies like oh my God. Is God real, for example? Can God actually allow all of this to happen? These questions, man, people are finding answers to them. It's amazing. They're actually finally questioning themselves. They're like, is there more to this life? I hope we discuss about this, but I really believe that these people that the problem with being liberal in America just it gives you no hope. It gives you no hope. You're stuck with a bad government that has no care for you, that doesn't care about you. You know that they don't care about you. You know that they are only there to make money. And so you're sitting there, going to work, coming back home, have no power. If you stand up, you go to you go to the police station, you become imprisoned. So I think the Americans immediately they already have been defeated, which is why we're seeing so many of these shootings happening. The people they're just freaking out, right? They're going crazy, like oh my God, this system is so crazy. And then one day he just wakes up, he just explodes, right? And so what happens is I think they're getting hope. They're saying, "Oh my God, Gaza, look at how these people are living. They're living 10 times worse than me. And I'm complaining. I'm sitting here complaining. Let me learn about these people. Let me learn how this culture is. Let me see if these people are actually bad people. Let me see if we are the good people." And I'm seeing a lot more Americans opening their minds, opening their brains, and actually becoming brave, becoming more like less nihilistic. You know what I mean? More hopeful. And so I'm really happy about this. I know it sounds crazy that they're more hopeful seeing Gaza, but I really believe it. Why would you become a Muslim then, unless something changed inside of you? And why are you asking all these questions unless something ticked? And so I see it. I think they can see it. I think they can realize that they're not hopeless, that even though they're living really bad lives, they can change it. And if the Palestinian people are gonna fight, why can't we stop? Why should we ever stop fighting? You see what I mean? So I really believe it's helping the Americans. It's waking them up. And in the West, it's changing the ideology slowly. It's not going to do it overnight. You need religion for that. It's never going to change. Like, the only way I'll be able to convince you to segregate boys and girls is religion, because you're going to come here and tell me science and blah, blah, blah. So you still need religion, but it's slowly, getting influenced. Now I'm worried because the media machine is very strong. It can very easily create a new false flag attack and, reflip everybody. I don't know, a new kindergarten shooting, a Palestinian do a kindergarten shooting, everybody will hit Palestine again. Very easily anything could happen, and the whole world can flip. So I'm very weary about it, but also very hopeful. I'm seeing a lot of change. I'm seeing a lot more Westerners asking questions, being hopeful, not nihilistic anymore. Not just, hey, whatever. I don't even know. I don't care about what the universe's secrets are anymore. I don't care. We're just born here and we're gonna die and we're gonna be nothing. I'm seeing a lot more questioning, and I'm seeing a lot more like changing religions, stopping transitioning. They're waking up. They're becoming stronger. Going to the gym. Like this Gaza thing, man, it's opened so many people's eyes. They're going to the gym. They're fighting. They're not gonna be pussies anymore. They refuse to just sit down and get stepped on. And so it's opening. It's really giving hope in the West, I believe.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see, like, we're seeing a lot of growth where if you're like a liberal or you're more conservative, you're seeing how those different sides are expanding internally, where you can believe this and still be conservative, you can believe this. So you're seeing a lot more acceptance of these different views, but there is still the general issue of the sides that we're seeing. Because I know with a big point that you have is that the acceptance of LGBT and all of that is another key contributor that you see with downfall of the West. How do you see, like, what do you think is going to lead with that? Like, what is the problem there?
So that's why I tell you, I think certain things are gonna never change until religions comes in. But yeah, so let me talk a little bit about the LGBT. Let me give you a little bit of my concerns, and maybe you can disagree or agree with me. So this is what I think about the LGBTQ. I think it's a man-made movement. It's not natural in any way. First of all, it's man-made. Anything man-made, you have to be very careful about if it's not natural. And what I mean by that is naturally a man wants to build his home. Okay, natural. Okay, if a man gets up one day and tells you, "Man, I want to go to the gym," you're like, "Okay, that makes sense. You're fat. You need to go to the gym." But if one day one guy tells you, wakes up and tells you, "Man, I need to cut off my left finger," you'd be like, "Wait a minute, wait a minute. There's something weird here. This is not a natural thing that a person would do." Unless I guess they're feeling immense amounts of pain, and even then, that is just going to create more pain. So maybe we have to solve this. So my question is, first of all, I have a couple of concerns. It's man-made movements, not natural. Whenever you have a man-made movement, I even explained to you Herzl's intentions. Nobody knows Herzl's intentions anymore. Herzl is the creator. Basically, literally whenever they do any meetings, if they are truly Zionists, they will have a picture of Herzl on above their heads, okay, right behind them. And so, who's Herzl? Who knows what Herzl's intentions were and what his ideology is? Nobody knows anymore. It's 100 years old. This is why I'm very weary about man-made ideologies and man-made movements. Okay, not every man-made movement is bad, but I prefer natural movements. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Movements are occurring naturally that don't have to be forced into you. Okay, that's how I explain it. I'm trying to explain. That's how I try to explain it. Okay, so this is what I mean. So I don't like the man-made movements because we don't know the intentions of the person that created the movement. Exactly why I don't like feminism. Feminism. What was wrong with feminism? You know what I mean? What was wrong with women living back in the day? If there was anything wrong with women living back in the day, then that means men had problems too. If women had a lot of issues, the men had a lot of issues too. So to act like all the issues were only centered around women, this is another man-made movement. I don't trust this movement. Okay, so now you have a little bit of understanding what criteria I look for in movements. I look for natural, and I look for the intention behind it. And I can't find the intention behind man-made movements because the people are dead. And everybody that comes into this new movement, they have a different intention totally. Like this trans is totally different than this trans. You know what I mean? This gay guy has a totally different intention than this gay dude. Like they'll even tell you, This guy, there's new sexes showing up all the time. You know what I mean? Nobody knows what's happening anymore. I don't even know what was the true intention behind the LGBTQ movement anymore. They first say that it was to reduce human rights, to increase human rights and reduce suffering. But I'm very weary about that because I've read multiple places where the Supreme Court of Israel doesn't care about human rights when it comes to national security. So to me, it's very they use it interchangeably. Whenever they want to, they care about human rights to force a movement to happen. But whenever they don't think this is a part, it's going to be helpful for them, like security or safety, whatever. They use mostly national security risks. But for example, whenever they say suicides are going to be on the rise, immediately now they can use human rights as the reason why we should stop people from stopping people from becoming LGBTQ. But then at the same time, they say the Supreme Court in Israel will tell you, oh, human rights doesn't matter because we might die. You know, we should not care about human rights if it means the end of our nation. So at the same time, they really don't care about these human rights that they fight so hard for. So I'm very weary about these movements. There's no consistency. And then let me talk to you a little bit about their ideology. So what's the base fundamental belief of a trans person is that humans are not, I don't know what is it, they're interchangeable. At this point they can become dogs and cats, that they are just part of the animal ecosystem, and I guess the human is the only animal that can become any other animal he wants to become. I don't know. To me, this is insane. Like, it doesn't. I don't even know where this comes from. There's no root for this in anywhere in history. There's no roots and foundations for this movement in anywhere in the natural world. And even in insects and animals, when we see them like behaving unnaturally, it usually means the death for that species. And so when I see the LGBTQ movement rising, and then like for example, it's kind of, you know what it is. I'll prove to you this. I'll show you how. Just because a movement is legal doesn't mean it's okay. Okay, self-euthanization in Canada just was accepted 2016. Was just accepted in 2016. In 2016, they had about 1,000 self-euthanizations. Now they're getting, in 2021, a recent statistic, now they're doing about 10,000 self-euthanizations every year. It's 100% legal. It's 100% doable. You can ask for it, and if the psychiatrist believes that you're allowed this, that you can do it. But who in the world can sit here and explain to me that this is a good for society to self-euthanize? So I use the same argument. Just because something is legal, yeah, you can change your sex. Just because something is allowable, yeah, you can go talk to a psychiatrist and they can give you meds. Who in the world can give me an explanation that this is good for the for and relevant for the human species to stay alive? Because if I change my sex, how can you do that? Actually, it actually the other argument stems when you change your sex, because you know what, man, it's such a brutal surgery. I've had a major surgery. I've had a major surgery. Okay, they had to use staples, not stitches. You know, when you have a major surgery, when it's really big, they have to use staples. Imagine the deformation it does to your body, right? So imagine a major surgery, life-saving surgery. Look how scary that is to go through a life-saving surgery. Imagine just going through a sex-changing surgery where you cut off your penis, they drill a hole, and then they have to bring back the skin in, and then you have to live with that, whatever the fuck that thing is inside of you now, I mean, for the rest of your life. And most people never recover. They live in a bag. I had to remove some of my intestines. It was one of my biggest fear to live for them to give me a bag. And I told the doctor himself, I told him, hey, I will not allow you to do the surgery right now unless you promise me you will not give me a bag. And he's like, I would not worry about it. I had to confirm from him that he's because surgeons don't give a fuck. They just do whatever the hell they want to, and then you know, they don't deal with the circumstances, right? So for me, it was a life-saving surgery, and I was still worried. I didn't want to even do it. Imagine a guy that's sex-changing that could destroy his own life. This brand new experimental surgery, and nobody has any evidence that's actually working. Actually, all the proof is showing you that it's anti helping. It's not helping anybody. It's actually creating almost 100% suicide rates post-ops. So this is a movement literally created to murder humanity. It's literally created to annihilate any semblance of humanity left in you. And if you think you're human, you're so embarrassed because you've turned yourself into something else that you won't even stand for being human anymore. You get me? So I really believe this is completely the opposite than what we were talking about. You know how I was talking about how Gaza empowers people? I think this movement disempowers people. I think this movement makes people weak. I think this is a movement that makes people very reliant on the government and on their doctors, who I would never trust a doctor. Bro, I lived. I need a doctor. I will never trust a doctor. You know what I do? I sit in the cold water. We won't discuss this. I would rather, I would rather go figure out my own science than to even trust a doctor. And I don't even understand how these guys can trust these doctors in experimental surgeries, major experimental surgeries, major surgery, like huge surgery, removing body parts that will never be reassembled, and 100%, almost 100% suicide rate post-op. And you're gonna tell me this is good for humanity? No, I disagree. I argue against that. And I really believe that this is going to be the fall of the West, when these trans stop being trans and they start realizing, oh my God, maybe I like dogs. Maybe I'm not actually into trans. Maybe I'm not a woman. Maybe I'm into dogs. F it, I'm not even into dogs or women. Maybe I'm into 5-year-olds. And you think it's a joke. You think it's a joke. But did we not believe that there's a go? Did we not believe, like, oh my God, you're telling me there's a movement of people cutting their dicks off and claiming to be women? I would have laughed at you. And you're telling me, but today this is real. This is a reality of today. This is legal reality of the legal reality. It's crazy. So just because something is legal, just like self-euthanization, just because something is, I guess, good and legally standing, it doesn't mean it's right to do. So that's my argument. Just because some trans people can feel good transitioning, I don't believe in a objective view of the world this is actually good. And my argument is it's not natural. We don't know the intentions of these people anymore. We don't know what their intentions are anymore. It used to be, I just don't want to suicide. Now it could be anything. I'm just a sexual deviant. I don't even know what it is anymore. You know what I mean? And then thirdly is it forces people to become weak and reliant on a government or a doctor or a different entity than themselves, or God, and that's extremely anti what I believe in.
Yeah,
And I believe that it's gonna bring the downfall of the West because of that.
I do have one point from that I do want to see elaboration on, is that you do bring up like naturalist or naturalism a lot, like since it's not natural, but like a lot of advancements we see in society are from like non-natural things, like chemotherapy isn't natural. So like how do you reconcile that? Like some things that aren't natural we do need in society.
Okay, so I could agree with you. I mean, so my question is, do we really okay, so let's say there's chemotherapy, but there's another natural way. Let's say there's chemotherapy is a medicine. I want to clarify with you. Let's say the doctor comes to you, tells you, I have two solutions for you. I can give you chemotherapy. We created this new drug. I'll give it to you, administer it to you. 55% to 75% chance you're going to succeed. But I have another remedy for you. And this can actually, believe it or not, it can actually kill all your inflammation and kill all your cancerous cells, shut them down immediately. He gives you a diet, and he tells you to he basically stop sugar and sit in cold water for 10 minutes every single day. Ice cold water for 10 minutes every single day. Tell me, which one would you prefer to do? Just you personally, I want to understand.
Yeah, I feel like you would go with the most efficient one. So like if it is proven to get rid of all of the inflammation and get rid of all the cells, that is the one I feel like the general like population would go with, right? Because it is the most
Okay, let's say
efficient.
both of them are not proven. Both of them are not proven. One is a man-made chemotherapy. You've heard bad things about it. You've heard that people come out of it poisoned. They're throwing up. They're losing their hairs, and you know it. But it's not 100%, but it's pretty high there. Also pretty high there, and this is not very studied, but you've heard from your friends or whatever, and your doctors confirm to you there is another remedy. It's natural. You actually restrict your diet heavily, though heavily calorically, and micro diet, like your micronutrients. You restrict them, and you only do certain micronutrients, and you also sit in cold water. But there's a high chance of succeeding as well. Which one would you prefer?
Yeah, I think with that it would go down to like comfortability, where if I can't look at the efficiency rates, I would go with like what's the one that I feel like more comfortable with. So like if I didn't know which one is more successful, I would probably go with like the water
So,
one,
so,
right?
so, so my opinion is, I believe the only reason it's more comfortable to you is because it's a natural way of existing. So this is what I believe in. I believe every ailment was created and has some kind of solution. Okay, so just every ailment has a solution. Now, every ailment has a natural solution, and that's how we get these man-made solutions. So you have to understand for example, how do we get the venom for the snake? We have to use the poison, but from the poison we can get the venom. So from these natural places we get the remedies. And so a lot of science is actually using natural remedies. They're actually using natural substances to create these medicines. In my opinion, I believe you actually prefer this natural remedy. Why? Or you prefer being sitting in water because it's natural. You realize, oh, I'm not throwing up as much and I feel better, so I'm gonna do it. But that's not what that's to you. That's what you believe in. But in your brain, what's happening is the truth is, oh my god, the only reason I feel better when I sit in the cold water over doing chemotherapy is in my head is because this is a natural remedy. This is the natural way to treat this disease. And whereas the other one was a man-made altered idea. And of course this might be successful, but it just comes very abrasive, sometimes much more abrasive. I'm not Hey, let's not talk. It's not that natural remedies are not abrasive, but usually man-made remedies are so much more abrasive than natural remedies. So my opinion is, the only reason, my argument is, the only reason you believe this is more comfortable to you and you actually appreciate sitting in the cold water more than being in a chemotherapy is because it's a natural remedy. And so it's basically coming back to my argument that God gave you this a remedy for everything. So it's better to do it naturally and find the remedy naturally than to go through this man-made process. Now, of course, certain diseases we haven't found everything. And yeah, like for example, if you tell me, I don't agree with eating pork, but if you tell me I'm gonna die today unless I eat this pork, I'm in the middle of the desert, I have to eat this pork, I'm gonna eat this pork. So you have to understand also my morality switches. I have two compasses, one when I'm alive and happy, one when I'm almost gonna die. When I'm almost gonna die, everything is allowed to me. Okay, I believe in everything, man. If I'm almost gonna die, but you tell me if I turn trans right now I'm gonna survive, I'll turn trans. Okay, you understand me? But that's different because I went to a different compass, moral compass. But when I'm normally living, I will never eat pork. I will never turn trans. I have these set of values that will never change. And to me, they make me feel comfortable because they're natural. I don't have to do anything crazy. That see what I mean? My argument is the only reason you feel more comfortable to do that cold water remedy is because it's the natural way to deal with it. Because it's not a man-made concoction of different, I don't know,
Different like
chemical.
chemicals. Yeah, I got you. Then how do you reference that with like when there are diseases that we don't have, like especially when it comes to like mental disorders, we haven't found like for the last, especially when it comes to like how you view it with like homosexuality, people have been trying to get rid of that with natural ways for the last
All
few
right.
hundred years.
Give me how will you ever stop being scared of death?
I would assume it would come with therapy and like just accepting of it.
No therapy will ever allow you to stop. Actually, the more further away you are from religion, the more fearful you are and more scared you are when you are about to die. You understand it? Like the more away from, there's no psychiatrist that will ever help you with this. The more away from religion you are, the more atheistic you are, the more fear you will get the closer you get to your deathbed. You get me? You're like, and the more nihilistic you feel, and the more anguish and anxiousness and depression you feel. No psychiatrist will help you with that. So tell me, what's a man-made way you can save yourself from the fear of death? Like, be honest, because everyone knows this fear. Everyone's felt it. I can't explain it, but everyone knows it. So can you actually psychiatric psychiatric. My argument is there's a natural remedy for it. I'm not going to tell you what it is right now, but can you do it with your man-made sciences? Go ahead.
I feel like it comes to just reconciling, like, if you have a fear of death, you have to accept that you can't be death, right? No one has ever done it, no one will ever do it. I feel like that's the best way you can accept it. It's just a natural occurrence. Just as you were born, you will die, right? I feel like another way people accept it, though, is they look for like what comes after, where you see religions. All religions have a different idea of what becomes after, but that's where like the main difficulty forms, right? Is that they all have different answers.
Exactly. So, but the psychiatrist, my question is, how is the psychiatrist? We're talking right now about man-made remedies. Okay, we're not talking about naturalistic remedies. We're talking about man-made. How is the psychiatrist and the therapist going to come and help you with this problem that you have a fear that you're going to die, and you know you're going to die? You've seen your mom die, you've seen your brother die, you've seen your father die. You know you're going to die. You can't sleep at night. You open your eyes right before you sleep. You're like, God, I can't believe I'm gonna die. And then you're getting grayer, and you're getting a little bit tougher to move. What psychiatrist, what medicine is this psychiatrist gonna give you to help you? Like what I'm trying to get to is there are certain ailments in this world that no human being in the world can help you from. Can you agree with me on that? Give me. Can a psychiatrist help you with this fear?
I agree with the general point of, yeah, there are going to be some fears where they can't help you. But when it comes to like specific fears, there is the idea of them like introducing you into better ways, like especially when it comes to death. Like if you have that fear of death, if they talk you through it, you're going to have a better understanding. Yeah, they're gonna give you. They're just gonna like lay you in like just a med bay, and they're gonna be like, just stay here for a little. You're gonna get more better at it.
In the cemetery.
Yeah, but I feel like if you're better understanding of, there is nothing to fear, right? Like, you know, this is how it's always been. This isn't like a rare occurrence. You can have a fear of like an early death or a late death, but if you're in like your 90s, you know this is coming. If you're in the 80s, you know this is coming. You just have to be. It's how it is.
Nice. Isaac, I really appreciate the answer, man. I just, I totally understand, man, but I just want to remind you, you can never stop yourself from thinking by overthinking. Like, you can never stop this, solve the problem of, you can never tell yourself, stop thinking. You know what I mean? You can never tell yourself, I need to stop thinking, I need to stop thinking. So you can, it's almost like you're telling me, tell yourself and just accept that you're going to die. And I'm telling you, it's the second you accept that you're gonna die, that fear immediately rationalizes itself again. The second you realize and you accept that you're gonna die, as a nihilistic human, you can never accept that you're gonna die. You always have a problem if you're nihilistic. This only can be solved with religion. So my argument is, you're right. There are certain ailments right now we don't have a solution for naturally. But also, I argue with you that there are certain ailments that don't have a man-made solution. You know what I mean? Especially mental health issues. I believe those are only natural remedies. What do I mean by that? You go sit in the woods by yourself. You see this all the time with the veterans, army veterans. How do they solve this issue of PTSD? You know what they do? Who is the one that joins Naked and Alive the most? Who are the people that join that show the most, Naked and Alive? Mostly they're U.S. veterans, U.S. Army veterans, U.S. infantry veterans. All it is veterans that are dealing with huge amounts of mental health issues. The only way they can find solutions is to just sit down and just be quiet and live in the wild and experience this life. That's the only way. You can never stop yourself from, you can never solve a problem of thinking by telling yourself to stop thinking, okay? So this psychiatrist thing, it will never work when it comes to the fear of death. The only way some people do that are nihilistic, they sit down in loneliness and they contemplate their own existence. And even then, the fear is always going to be there. Till now, like these U.S. veterans, they have to continuously keep going. They have to continuously keep doing these trips. They have to continuously go back on Naked and Alive. Naked and Afraid. They do it like 3, 4, 5 times. He'll win every single time. He'll murder these crocodiles. He'll do it, but he'll still come back again. Why is he coming back again? There's something in his heart that hasn't been solved. So my question, I really do believe their mental health issues can never be solved without religion. I really don't believe any mental health issue can be solved without religion. That's where we come back to religion. And that's, in my opinion, the true natural remedy for mental health issues. The religion gives you a solution for the fear of death. It tells you this is what you do. If you're so afraid of dying, get your ass up and start working for your afterlife. That's literally what it tells you. What does it do? It solves your fear. You start believing that you're going to live again. then also doesn't make you hopeless. It doesn't. It makes you. It removes that nihilism from you. It tells you, oh, you are gonna die. By the way, my brother, you are gonna die. But the only way you can live a happy life after is if you get up right now and start creating actions that can get you there. And so, you see how I mean by natural remedies could be the only way that can create solutions for you. These U.S. veterans, if they would just accept it, they would never have to go back to these woods and live alone and murder these crocodiles. They just sit down, start helping the community. They create kids. They're not afraid of death anymore. They actually rationalize it. They accept it. That, you know what I mean. That's why a lot of these Muslims, you'll see them very peaceful. They're ready to die. It's because religion's the only way that can help you with that mental health issue. And another reason why we see the poorest nations always the happiest. Why? Because you don't need all this materialistic BS. You don't need all this man-made BS to be happy. Always your remedies are always going to come naturally, and they're going to be the best naturally. The people that are closest to God are the people that are least materialistic. The people are happier are the people that are least materialistic. So this is all my opinions why nature is the way to go. God's already given us all the solutions. He's not in this world anymore, but he's giving you the guide, and he's giving you the trees, and he's giving you the waters, and he's giving you everything you need to survive. And now he's giving it up to you. He's leaving it up to you. Go deal with it. But our problem is we're falling back. And another reason why I really don't like the trans movement, they're making us weak, making us believe in authoritarian regimes. Like, we have to believe in authority. We cannot deny authority anymore. I don't have a dick. I need somebody to help me. It's getting infected. You get me? I'm a perpetual patient. That's literally the definition of loving authority till the day I die. A perpetual patient. I have to keep going back. And that's what they try to create with every disease now. The cancer, they're trying to create perpetual patients and for all disease. And yeah, maybe not every disease has a solution, but at least naturally you will rationalize death. You know, you'll find the solution to your death in the end. And I my argument is, as a nihilist, as a person that loves life, as a materialistic person, you will never be able to solve these mental health issues, let alone all these other ailments that hit your body. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but then when it comes to that, do have to. I just want this is just a good general question. How do you weigh out the balances or weigh the differences between these different religions? Because if I know when it comes, there are very different religions, right? So how do
All right,
you
now
make
we're
the
talking.
case?
Now we're talking on the good part. Okay, let's talk. Let me ask you a couple of questions. I want to have a conversation in this one. Okay.
Okay.
All right, because you're religious, right?
I'm agnostic. I do think there is a higher power. I just don't see enough evidence from a certain religion to make me completely follow in that one.
So what do you mean agnostic? Agnostic, you mean you don't know there's a God?
I could be persuaded. I'm not 100%. And when it comes to that, also, if there was, I don't know what party to follow because who has the right answers? The big question, right?
All right, let me ask you a question, my brother. So let me ask you a question. As an agnostic person, I really need to understand it. You're still not sure there's God. So who do you believe created this universe, or do you believe he created?
I could see there being a master design and a creator, and I could also see the other answer of the Big Bang.
Okay, see, this is the problem. I can't talk to you. You need to actually give me one one belief. Who do you believe the Earth created itself, or do you believe something created it? Now, the Big Bang can still be a creator. Don't get me wrong. So just because you believe in the Big Bang doesn't mean that there's no creator. Okay, he could have been the one that made the Big Bang. But go ahead, let me.
I'm still trying to rationalize, but if you did have to pin me down on one answer, I would have to go with that. Right now, I feel like there's more evidence around me that makes me believe that it was just made this way than not there was a final design.
So basically, you believe the universe was ever created, like it's ever living. It's always been here, and it's always gonna exist after.
Kind of. There could be ways in that it doesn't. Like there was a Big Bang, so there was
Like
a
the Big Bang.
creation
So you
point.
believe in the Big Bang.
Yes.
So you believe the Big Bang happened.
Yeah.
But you don't believe that it's a creator that created the Big Bang. It's basically what it was the universe had all the substances necessary for its existence, and then the Big Bang happened, and then all these substances started to align randomly.
Yeah, that's the way I'd view it because it was over, I don't know the time span, but like over billions of years we saw these things form.
All right, I'm gonna prove to you that it doesn't matter what time it takes. you still need a creator and an engineer. Let's talk about this thought experiment, okay?
Okay.
So there's two people going to the beach. Both of them want to build a boat. One guy both of them grab all the pieces of the wood they need for the boat. They grab all the nails, all the hammers. This guy gets on the south side of the ocean. He's the one side, and then this guy's on the north. The guy on the north has been sitting down, knocking nails on the wood, nonstop, trying to make this boat. Okay, he's just trying to make a boat to go to across the street, across the road. The other guy, you know what he said? He said, "F this." He threw all the wood down in front of the beach. And he threw all the nails on top of the wood. He threw the hammer next to the nails. And then he said, F it. The universe will create this. My question is, how long will it take the universe to create the boat?
If that situation never would be made, right?
Even if it has everything necessary for its existence, it has all the wood, every nail, the diagrams in front of the beach, the water can see the diagram of the ship. Can the water just hit like the hammer? Can the water hit the hammer and then the hammer touches the nail perfectly and it does it so many times that it gets a nail inside? It can't do that.
I mean, it could over like millions of years, but no.
Yeah, let's say 100 trillion years. Could it ever build a boat? Could the universe build its own boat?
Maybe, but most likely not, right? I don't see that happening.
So if even with everything ever necessary for its existence, the boat could never be created unless a creator, an engineer shows up. So by the way, the guy on the north, it didn't take him 100 trillion years. He's Noah. He's already built the boat and he's gone. But the other guy, he's never going to have a boat. Do you agree with me? Ever. Yeah. Even after he dies. And what happens? The wood just drifts away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just the ties. So this is my argument. My argument is it doesn't matter how long it takes. The universe, even with every particle in existence, exists. Let's say every particle of nitrogen exists. Every particle of water exists. Every particle of soil exists. Everything you need exists. How can you explain to me the universe creating a tree?
Oh, okay, that's a very okay. I got this. Well, when we're talking about the Big Bang, we're talking about that's everything coming into existence. So beforehand, there wasn't soil, there wasn't grass, there wasn't trees, there wasn't life, right? So then when the Big Bang happened, it created a dense amount of different chemical makeups that we saw that happen, and over time, those things would be formed, right? If rock is moving through space, as we know through gravity, more rocks would come on and it will get bigger and bigger until it becomes a meteorite or a planet or a moon, right? And then we see with that, then over time, you'll see other things form. So that's why we believe that happened. But then when it comes to like stuff that can't be formed like that, that's where the problem comes in, right? With like the boat experiment you had, wouldn't the same outcome come if the person that's standing there threw down the planks, threw down the nail, threw down the hammer, and said, "I'm gonna wait till God gives me this boat"? Wouldn't that have the same outcome as the person who doesn't do anything?
Okay. So we're getting to another point because my point is God is my point is God is not attached to this universe. Okay, he's above this universe. He's outside of this universe. I'm talking about whatever is inside this universe. Look, to me, I believe God can do anything. If he wanted to, he could have created it. If you tell me how long does it take, I'll tell you it takes a second. I'm never going to be able to prove it, just like you never be able to prove evolution. But to me, I believe that to be truth, right? Just like you believe in evolution. But what I'm talking about is whatever that exists in this universe. God is almighty. He can do anything he wants to. So I actually do believe. My answer is yes. My answer is yes. He can come. If I ask him, like we've seen it multiple, a lot of prophets ask for things and they get it immediately from God, right? So maybe I'm not a prophet. Yeah, maybe I'm not the chosen one, but we've seen it happen before. But what I'm saying is he's outside this universe. Everything in this universe, can the universe alter form? Like for example, like can the universe alter forms? Can you change the tree into a house? What I'm saying is the universe can never alter forms. Whatever that was created had to stick there, stay there. Like yeah, a tree can become a piece of wood, but it can never become a boat. Okay, it can change, altered, not depending on form, but actually the tree will never ever be altered. Actually, the tree will never ever be altered because even when the beaver brings it down, it's still a tree. So the only thing that can change forms and alter is a human being. Even dogs, they can drill holes. It's still sand. Like think about it. Even monkeys can pick up berries. The tree still stands. The only person that can change forms is a human being. So to me, we're getting a little bit away from this topic. What I'm trying to say is we have the capability of changing forms. We as human beings, we have the ability. God gave us that capability. That's why He gave us the free will, because He gave us the ability to change forms. But nothing else in this universe has the ability. It has to either be created already, existing, or it's getting existing. Like God is creating it to existence. It's a tree can never be a house by itself. There has to be a man that shows up and builds the house. Like even the birds alter form. They can pick up picks and make a nest, but the nest is not even a house. It's still just like a bunch of sticks. It's not engineered like the level of the house. What do you think?
I mean, it depends on like obviously it's gonna come down to the main thing of we just believe different things. Where if you do believe in science, you do believe that matter can't be created. It can only change shape, right? That is like one of the biggest points is that so like a tree could become a boat, or a tree could become the matter that makes up of a frog. Like that's what you believe if you believe in that essence, right?
Wait. But do you believe the universe can do that change, or is it only allowed and capable by humans? To me, I don't even believe animals can make that.
I think one of the main principles in science is that over time, over millions and billions of years, the matter that makes up something will make up something else. Like matter cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only change shape is one of the founding laws of science, right? So that would mean that a frog in 18 BC in 2000 years could be the same matter that makes up a tree because the frog would die.
Yeah, but that's
the
my argument for God.
Well, it could
But
also
that's the same argument I use for God.
exactly see how they line up though. But my thing behind it is that the frog will die. The matter from the frog and the nutrients go into the soil. The soil sprouts a seed that makes the tree. Right? I don't need a creator above to see how that happens. I just go step by step and see that the matter changes shape.
No, you're missing the point. So science never created nitrogen. Science just understood that nitrogen is, and it's the reason ammonia becomes ammonia. So what happens is God's already created the rules of the universe, and now all you're doing is you're observing it. You're actually not even changing any of it. You're just observing that nitrogen is turning. It's going from carbon. It's going from a human being into carbon into nitrogen, and now he's just soil. But you never ever created that change. You can never change essence. You can change form. You can never change essence. So what I mean essence is a knife. You can never change the essence of a knife. Like we might disagree. Like when I show you, okay, like when I show you a wallet, okay, we might disagree on how many cards the wallet can. I can show you a piece of paper and tell you this is a wallet, okay? You'll be like, no, this is not a wallet. A wallet has to open up. It has to be able to fit this many cards, whatever. We can disagree, but the wallet, a human being cannot change the essence of the wallet. Like it can change the form, the leather switched into, and we created like we put the leather together in a certain way, and we changed the form of the leather to create the wallet. But this thing, a wallet, we disagree on it because it has an essence. So my what I'm trying to explain to you is you having the understanding that nitrogen and all this frog just creates the tree. You never actually made any change. You didn't do any change. You believe that this is just the universe doing it. My understanding is this is God doing it, and so I think that's where we disagree.
But with that, you can kind of change the essence of a like with the wallets, right? Like you could view, like even the idea of a wallet. Wallet. I mean, we might disagree on this. A wallet wasn't
Yeah,
like.
but we're gonna
Yeah, I'll say I can. Because but the problem is like there is no like correct answer we either of us will ever come to before if one of us has a revelation. That's how you see those big changes, right? But a wallet, when I think of wallet, that's something that was made by man. That essence was created. Like a wallet, we didn't just get dropped on the earth, Adam and Eve, and then a wallet was there, right? Over years and years of advancements, we made the wallet. So that essence of what that wallet is was made by us. We didn't change we may have changed like the shape and the form of it, but we also made a whole new thing with wallet, right?
Yeah. Okay, that's a really good point, man. So my question is, that's crazy because I can use the same arguments to prove God. I'm surprised that you're agnostic because like, but how can you prove that the universe is doing all of this? Like, to me, I say it's God. You're saying it's the universe that created this knowledge and understanding. You know what I mean? Like, how do you even know what a wallet is? For me, I wouldn't even understand what a wallet is except if God gave me that essence and ability to understand it. For you, you actually just believe you were created, like you exist with that essence. You already exist knowing all these things. I'm trying to understand who gave this to you, because we know as human beings we have to be taught everything. We didn't know anything like as truth. We had to know, we had to learn it, and then we had an innate nature in us. We're like, we actually accept things, and when we decline things based on our innate nature, and then otherwise sometimes even when with our innate nature we will still accept statistics and stuff. So I understand that, but what gives you the ability to understand that God didn't give you this, that this is all was already in here and you're just living it? Like, where do you get that idea that this was already here and that you're just living in it? Like, my understand why like you might call it any other name, might call it multi-dimensions, whatever. Why is it not God?
So when I think I look at stuff, I think you're right when you say human beings have to learn things, right? That's a big part of how we grow. And then, like, let's say we see a lamppost outside and we both look at it and we go, hey, that's a lamppost. We both agree on that. And then someone goes, it was made by God. Well, I'm not going to take that at face value. I'm going to be like, well, how do you know it was God? It's not on me to prove that I know it's there. It would be on the other person to prove that it was made by God, because we both know that it's there. We both know that this is a wallet. My claim is that we made it over time with humans. Your claim is that God gave the idea to humans to make over time, right? If we both agree on my point, but you have an extra point, I feel like the idea of truth is then put upon to you to show me that, and I just feel like I haven't been convinced of that over time. I could, in 2 years, you might see another podcast where I'm on here and I'm religious. I just haven't seen enough evidence that makes me draw that conclusion.
So what would you label as enough evidence for you? Like, would you believe scriptures? If you like, what would you believe?
So when it comes to scriptures and stuff, the problem I have with those is that you can always, like, I need something that you can grasp, right? When it comes to scriptures, you can't grasp the idea of God behind it because there's always the chance of, well, that's someone's words, right? And I might just be a very untrustworthy person, but I never try to take anything at face value. Where, like, if you said, like, just like the lamppost thing or the wallet thing, if you said God said this, I don't take that at face value. I am like, well, how do you know that? So I need something I can grasp, especially when it comes to, like, scriptures. That's just someone's words that maybe they did get from God, maybe they didn't. We don't have a way to grasp at it to know. And there's always the claim of another big claim is that it predicts stuff that does happen, and it's like, yes, we do see that happen, but again, we also see that happen with The Simpsons. I feel like there isn't something to grasp at to show exactly that there is a being that is all powerful in this world, right?
Oh yeah, sorry, I was talking, but yeah,
You're
okay, that's
good.
very interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting, man. That's interesting, man. I'm still trying to. So, like, if I bring you convincing scripture, that's not enough. If I bring you evidence that the universe can create itself, that's not enough.
Well, that's because I don't agree with that evidence, right? I
Well,
agree
well,
that
well, I can, I can,
scriptures.
I can, I can provide you proof, but like, there's a lot of proof that the universe is not everlasting. It's not. It actually was started at a point.
Well, everyone agrees on
Uh,
that.
um,
Everyone, well, not everyone, but I agree, and that is too. I just have a different conclusion from that, right? We both agree on that key point of evidence. You just have an extra key before that where it's
I
like
know,
God
but you
made it.
disagree. But you agreed with me. A boat can never create itself. So if the Big Bang happened and everything already exists in the universe, like let's say all the nitrogen, oxygen, everything exists, and the Big Bang happened, it still doesn't make sense how the universe would arrange itself randomly into the, like, you actually believe in the Big Bang, right? At least we can get there. So I believe in the Big Bang as well. To me, I don't believe that you have explained well enough how this random arrangement of chemicals created this universe when I gave you the start experiment, where we know the universe is not ever. So because of the, we know the Big Bang exists because the universe is not everlasting, and now we know that the universe can't create anything, or can't change really forms. It can. The problem is that you believe it's creating. I don't believe the universe is creating anything. I believe the soil already had the nitrogen. I believe everything was already there, and then there's something that pushes it through. So, but you have to how can you how can you what's the word I'm looking for? How can you explain to me the random arrangement of chemicals that created the universe being so accurate when it can't even create a boat when it has everything it needs?
So with the first thing is, I believe that there, when it comes to the nitrogen and all that, I don't think there was nitrogen before the Big Bang. The Big Bang was what created all of the chemical or all the matter that will and forever will be in the world. And then
Yeah,
when
so basically what you believe is the universe is not infinite.
I think it's infinitely expanding. I do, geez, word stutter. I do think that it can expand. I think that is the leading conclusion that people have when it comes to science. So I do try to follow with
No, but
that.
it's not infinite. That means the universe was created at a point and it will end at a point.
Yeah, but something being, I'm talking about infinite in size. Like it'll always keep growing. There could be something that could
That's
end
true.
that.
That's true. But what I'm talking about is the origin. Like, what was the origin of the boat? Was the man making the boat together? The origin of the universe was God putting the universe together. That's how I understand it. But you understand it as just random chemicals showing up together. So, can you explain that to me?
Yeah, I think it happens with like over time. I don't know. The timetable on the Earth is always it's heavily disputed. It's a heavily disputed issue. But there's a really cool thought experiment where if you give a monkey a typewriter long enough, at one point in time, it will type out the entirety of Shakespeare. Right?
Well, we just disproved that theory with the boat theory. We with the boat thought experiment, we disproved that.
No, because there's actually interaction here now, right? The boat theory, there's no one working on the boat. If a monkey is working on a typewriter, at some point it will type out.
I gave you interaction. I gave you the tidal waves.
That's not interaction though. If you're saying that, if you
That's literally the universe interacting with this with the wood.
yeah, but I'm saying there isn't something interacting. You can say the universe. I don't think there is a creator in the universe interacting with it. Don't you? If you believe in God, you do think that the universe will interact with the boat, right? Because you think the creator
So you
being outside
believe
the
the
universe.
creator is the animals?
No,
like-
I'm saying that you think when you say that I think that the universe interacts with it. I don't. I think that if you leave that boat there forever, but you believe that if you're on an island and God tells you that a boat will come for you one day, that boat will come, right? That's so you believe the universe does have interaction with the world. I don't think that. I think that there is something always outside interacting with it.
Okay. I'm gonna convince you, man. You're a smart guy. I'm gonna convince you, man. I'm gonna convince you. So let's look at this, man. How do you know what's difference? Okay, let's come to this from a different angle. Okay.
Okay.
How do you know the difference between right and wrong? Where do you get your subjective morality? Because definitely it's not objective. So I just want to know, where do you know the right and wrong from? How do you distinguish the difference?
When it comes to me personally, I always try to go off of it's called the golden rule for a reason, but if you think that you doing something to someone would cause general harm to that person, and if it was done to you, it would cause general harm to you, it's probably not something you could look towards. I think that when it comes to that, just emotionally and physically, I feel like is the way I go about it. Then when there's also I'm a very legal person as well. I'm a very analytical person where I do think that when it comes to laws, I do think that's how I look at a lot of things where although if there isn't someone being harmed in something, there is a chance for harm. With like jaywalking, right? There's no golden rule in jaywalking. There's no one to observe it, right? You're not hurting someone else, you're just hurting yourself. But someone jaywalking is at higher risk of getting hit by a car, right? Not wearing your helmet on a bike puts you at higher risk of doing that. Just because there isn't a golden rule there, I feel like you can still view a harm to a person that you should try to minimize.
So your compass is reduction of harm,
Yeah.
and then do you have? So basically, it's like a liberal view. It's very not what's the word I'm looking for? It's liberal, right?
It might be.
But I'm talking about the definition. No, I'm talking about the definition of it, like from Immanuel
Libertarian?
Kant. Libertarian, you know, like from Immanuel Kant's perspective of do no harm and only do good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so to me, how it's a very faulty premise, because that means you can eat, like McDonald's all day long, and it's totally normal. That's totally okay, because it gives you happiness,
But it gives you
and
harm.
you don't necessarily see what I'm saying is, because it's subjective, you can push away, like, oh, being fat, it's not even a problem anymore with the fat movement, you know what I mean? So it's not necessarily being harming me becoming fat, you know. Oh, I'm getting cancer, it doesn't matter anymore because we have chemotherapy, they can solve this immediately. Like, you can move the goalpost of subjective harm as far as you can, because you don't have an objective thing telling you what's actual harm and what's not.
But I think that's with growth. That's what you see with like every society, even religion.
No. That's so dangerous, though. You cannot depend on growth, because slaves.
Weren't slaves in the Bible?
Yeah, but do you know that also in the, I don't know about the Bible, but in the Quran there were slaves, but they don't allow. They basically, you are the best man. Who is the best of you? Who is the best among you? Is the man that frees a slave. So would you say this is a book that condones slavery or does not condone slavery? If it says the best man of you is the man that frees a slave, do you believe this is a book that condones slavery or is against it?
Did it say that? I don't know. I don't know all the quotes, but I'd have to see.
It says a lot of things. It says that
Yeah.
you can marry your slave, your right hand. It says you can marry your right hand, but you have to understand there's reasons for this. For example, if you marry your maid, there's no contraception back in the day, so you give her a baby. She gives you a baby. She's not your maid anymore. She's your wife. She's the mother of your babies. So she actually levels up. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I
She
got
went
you.
from a slave to becoming a wife.
So
To you it looks bad, but because of the age, it totally makes sense.
So what I'm gathering is there are quotes in the Quran where it says it does allow slavery, but in other quotes it also says that the best man frees slaves, right?
Yeah, because the Quran is a real. It's basically a historical record, so it knows what was happening around. Like for example, the nobles of the Quraysh, the nobles of the village in Mecca, Quraysh, the village of Muhammad peace be upon him. Every noble owned slaves. It was part of nobility to own a white slave, a white European, like Syrian boy. Until now, you'll see the Gulf. They really like the Syrian boys. Till now, they really like the Lebanese Syrian boys. And it was part of nobility to own slaves, and the Quran recognized it, and it softened their hearts. So it didn't immediately tell them, hey, immediately decline your slaves and get rid of them. Slowly, like for example, how it did with the alcohol. At the end of after 23 years, after like 20 years, it said in the end, hey, you Muslims, have you not had enough of this disgusting filth? Like after it sent all of them, so it doesn't do it at the beginning. It comes at the end and it tells them, "Hey, no more alcohol." Why? And it's clear in as they loved alcohol so much that the Quran recognized, or God recognized, if He declined, stopped them from alcohol the day one, then nobody would have followed Prophet Muhammad. That's look at how much how genius your God is. But it still stopped alcohol. It only did it towards the end. Okay, it didn't it didn't do it the first year of Islam. It did it like the 20th year of Islam.
Isn't
So
that
the whole time they kept drinking alcohol. But why in the last moment, the last day, it says this is a filth? Does that mean the whole time this was totally okay? No, God just allowed it because He understood if He stopped it today, it's going to create a lot of issues, a lot of problems, and it's not going to get the message across that He was looking for. And then finally, when He made sure everyone was completely entrenched in the religion, then he was like, have you not had enough? And he talks to them very, very like demeaning. Have you not had enough of this filth? And he tells them to stop it. And from that day on, no Muslim ever drank alcohol. That's how it changes. Okay, that's how it takes one day. So just because it's in the Quran, that doesn't mean this is something condoned. He just understood that this is something that if he forces on them today, it's going to be very difficult to happen. But he did force it upon them later. For example, there's a lot of verses that say freeing the slaves is one of the best acts that gets you to heaven. If you want to get to heaven, free a slave. If you lie, free 30 slaves. If you murder somebody, free slaves. If you lie, feed a hungry slave, or feed a homeless man. Why does this book keep giving to the slaves if it hates them so much?
but doesn't that kind of show? Isn't that by definition growth? Like what you said, where it let them get alcohol in the beginning, and then near the end he
You know,
said,
that's biblical growth.
but that's what you said. That's moral growth as well. The observer, if you believe that it is God, in the beginning thought that alcohol should be okay, but then as he saw the extreme amounts of consumption, he was like, I need to change these people. Isn't that growth morally?
That's true, but there was certain criteria he used. He didn't just allow every people. He only chose the chosen ones. He only took the people that actually proved themselves. So just because somebody's doing everything they want on a whim, and then later they grew up. I mean, sure, that could show you growth, but it's like a godly thing, man. Today, in this day and age, we don't have a prophet, we don't have a God. You have to fall back on whatever God already gave you. So if you guys won't even follow that, how is he supposed to trust that you guys are gonna morally grow? Like if you won't even follow, because there's no more prophets, so you're supposed to follow the last prophet, which is Prophet Muhammad. So how is he supposed to just let you grow morally when he already created the moral growth? He already created the last revelation. He already created the final message. Why is he wanting you to grow anymore? Like, so I'll show you. I'll tell you what moral growth is. Moral growth is Abraham didn't even have scriptures. Moral growth was Abraham's dad was the maker of the statues of his Babylon. He was one of the most noble men, and still Abraham started thinking, "Man, my dad created the stone. Why am I worshiping it? Why is my dad worshiping it? Should I worship the clouds? Man, the clouds they dissipate any moment. The sun shows up. Should I worship the sun? Man, the sun is overpowered by the moon at night. Should I worship the moon?" And he starts contemplating. This is the Abrahamic legacy. He starts contemplating. That's moral growth, okay? That's moral growth. It started from Abraham, but it ended with Muhammad. How in Jesus's time, for example, they had different teachings. It's the same prayer, but they prayed different times. They did different things. Maybe they were allowed to drink alcohol. We don't believe that prophets drink alcohol. They were just from major sins from the beginning. They never did them. Subhanallah. Like Abraham from the beginning, he just never touched alcohol. God, Muhammad, multiple times he almost drank alcohol, but God made him sleep. There's a lot of narrations. He would be in festivals, but he would fall asleep immediately. A wind would come and take him, make him feel weird and leave. He would, he never ever was able to celebrate and drink alcohol. So he never ever in his life before prophecy drank alcohol. So we believe these guys they had moral compasses clear, but what it is the actual teachings grew. Like maybe in Abraham's time you can have slaves, but by the time of Muhammad, peace be upon him, there's no more slaves. So we believe the growth is finished. We believe Jesus' teachings were different than Muhammad. They were the same message, believe in one God, but they had different cultures. They had different. Maybe they drank alcohol. We don't know. I don't know. Maybe they can eat pork. I don't believe they can eat pork. Actually, they had the same teachings. But you see, the Moses' people maybe they were able to eat pork. You know what I mean? So this is what you don't. So there's already been growth. Every from Abraham's time before the scriptures ever till today. There's already been moral growth. But what we believe in is it's stopped. It stopped at Prophet Muhammad, at Islam, at Quran. Anything you need to find out is in the Quran. Anything you start creating afterwards, that's a concoction, a man-made concoction, and we do not believe in it. So that's where you need to be very careful. So there is moral growth. You're right. Even the Bible and the Quran believes in that, but it doesn't believe in it as from 2023 to 2020 to 2030, right? They believe in it from Noah's time all the way to today. They don't believe in it as from the 2000 to 3000s.
Then I would have the question with that is, well, then what if comes a new prophet with new moral guidelines
No
that
more.
he says were given? There are no more?
No more. It's already in the Quran. It's been declared. There's no more. That's why we have. It's such a big thing to believe in Prophet Muhammad. And this is another thing. Um, because we know there's no prophet, we believe Islam is final. We believe everything Islam is taught is the final teachings. So these are the true teachings that God wanted to teach humanity from the time of Adam. This is exactly how God wanted Adam to live. But because the Adam was in a different state, he only was alone. He only had one girl with him. He can, for example, the daughters and the sons of Adam can mate with each other. This is something that God doesn't allow anymore, but He allowed in Adam's time. That's moral growth. Do you agree?
I kind of, yeah, I see the general point that you're making. The
So
only
do you see what I mean? So we don't believe in Adam's teachings. We don't believe you can date your sister. Okay, but we believe Adam still followed God, so he did follow that. So at some point, it was okay to do that. You see what I mean? But we grew out of it. God stopped it because it just creates too many genetic mutations, and now it creates issues when you do that. So why are we not allowed to date our sisters? Because God said so, not because anything else. I don't have to go to science. I don't have to understand the literature. I don't have to read the most recent scientists. I just read the Quran. God tells me, don't touch your mother, don't touch your daughter, don't touch your sister. And I recognize that. And then science later lines with me and says, oh my God, you know what happens when you date with your sister or your mother? You create genetic mutations. The kids can't even maybe come out blind. They can't hear, no lips. You know, they're real genetic mutation, like real, like not humans. You know what I mean? Crazy. Intersex starts like that. And so God saved us from all of that. But he allowed others to do it, but he saved us from it. So we believe Muhammad was the final.
But then how do you see that growth was needed for those things to happen? Like I understand that there, from what I'm understanding, there can't be more prophets. The word that is written is the word that the word forbid till the end of time. Okay, but without the growth that happened during those time periods, you would have never had growth. And I bet some of those growths happened without the prophets, right? Because there was still slavery after the Quran. There was still slavery after the Bible, right? It took more moral growth for that to happen than the revelations that God given, right?
Actually, I believe after Muhammad, peace be upon him, died, there was very brief time where there was prosper, but after that, what happens is you leave your moral compass, you leave the guide, which is the Quran, and you start chasing the worldly life. And you've seen it with the story of Moses. They were the God's chosen people. Then they were told to move away and start following a different law, and immediately they started questioning, begging to stop. No, we want to do this. No, this is not, we don't agree with this, blah blah blah. God took them away from that. Okay, God removed them from being the chosen people. He just sent them. Now they're just till today they're just being thrown around, the Jews. And so that's what we will believe in. What happened was the Muslims, if they followed, and when they did follow the Prophet Muhammad's teachings, when, for example, in war, they never ever hurt a tree. They would never do anything, any lies, cheating. They would 100% be sincere. They when they used to do stuff like that, they were very successful, and God gave them victory. What we believe in, the second they start removed themselves from this after the Mamalik, the Rashidi, the Abbasi, the all of these, the Ottomans, by the Ottoman Empire, it's just corruption everywhere. Nobody's really reading the Quran anymore. So what we believe in is they got away from the moral compass. So they evolved so far away from the Quran that God gave them, reduced them to nothingness. Just like the story of Moses' kids. If they followed God, they would have been amazing. But then they can very easily, you can lose that grace from God. You know what I mean? You have to actually show proof that you are a part of that. You deserve the grace. So when you don't show the proof, God will just take it away from you, and that's what we believed in. I believe the Muslims would be much more prosper today if they followed the Quran's teachings 100%. But we are too materialistic, we are too westernized, and we felt really hard.
The only thing I have with that is just if you do follow it based on the moral compass given, I think we both said this. I think he describes the Prophet Muhammad. He describes religion, not religion, slavery, as he did say that freeing your slave is like an act of charity, but he doesn't outlaw it outright. So how are you supposed to sit behind him saying that it is a moral objectiveness that he has that you should follow when something that I think we would both agree on is something that is morally wrong today, that he never directly went against. He just said that I think you quoted it, I don't know if it's the right quote, but the one who frees him is the best man. The best man doesn't mean anything like legally. He doesn't say, oh, everyone else will go to to a bad afterlife. They are just the better person. How do you follow behind a moral compass that lets those things happen but doesn't? It can say that it's good and bad, but he doesn't say you can't.
Yeah, so totally understand. So we actually do believe it says you can't. It's just that, and that's why Prophet Muhammad. Okay, so this is how it is. You you cannot have a slave today. To every scholar agrees, you're not allowed to have a slave today. Okay. Not sure exactly what verse is coming from, but they know it's from the Quran. It's from the teachings of Prophet Muhammad. You're not allowed to have a slave today. How do we know anything? How do the scholars come up to anything? Is using Sahih Hadith, which is the truth Hadith. That means authenticated Hadith, which Hadith just means saying. So authenticated sayings of the Prophet, which we authenticate with somebody authenticated them, just what historians do. And then there are very weak hadiths. So we believe in the strong hadiths, and using the strong hadiths and the Quran, today's scholars unanimously agree slavery is disallowed. Disallowed from today. You're not allowed to have slaves today. So now the question comes, so there is teachings against it. Okay, I'm not sure exactly, but if I look up right now, I'll find a couple of hadiths that really do talk about it's going to explain it exactly how it explained alcohol. It says this is a filth act. It's an act of filth. That's all the Quran has to do. It doesn't have to tell you anything else. they immediately recognize the second they hear a bad word, God saying something bad about something, immediately they recognize this is something wrong. They should not be doing it. What you don't understand is back in that day, 1400 years ago, it was a time where you lived in the desert, where slaves would die. Like for example, let's say if I'm a slave and I got this there's a whole chariot that took me to sell me in Saudi Arabia. If I don't get sold in Saudi Arabia, I have to walk all the way back chained and risk death and risk problems, risk being robbed from bandits in the street. You know, bandits. You heard about the Silk Road bandits. You know, even the most prominent trade routes had bandits all over them, and it was a very smart idea to keep bandits because you knew there was money going there all the time. Till now, trade routes are extremely protected. Till now, you see the Yemen and the big oceans; they're very, very protected. And so this is very, very scary. Like to move slaves took months. Okay, it didn't take a day. It's not like today where you just travel with plane. So it's very hard, and there's not a lot of food. So a lot of people, a lot of these big trade caravans, but these big trade caravans, what they would do is they would actually, if they don't sell slaves, they would just leave them. So the slave just is in the middle of the desert, has no food, no water, nothing, is about to die, and he has to figure it out himself. To be honest with you, if you were at that point, your parents were murdered, they took you from your home, a caravan took you from your home, and now you're in the middle of the Saudi Arabian desert. Would you wish you were a slave or would you wish you were dead?
I feel like when it comes just down to like the moral principle, that's a really good question. Is I don't remember whose quote it was, but during slavery in America, there was always the great quote: "What's better, to die free or to live as a slave?" Right? That was always the question.
Well, we believe it's better for you to die because there's no war zone at that time. You're literally just living. So we believe it's that's murder, that's self-suicide, and nobody would at that time would do it. Nobody even thought about self-suicide at that time. It's very extremely rare act. Nobody. It's crazy to hear about this. Okay, and so at that time they didn't believe in suicide, so they would just basically, if you were not sold at that point, they would wish they were slaves. Okay, so if you're not sold into slavery, I don't know what happened to my camera.
Yeah, I was gonna say it just turned off, but you're good.
If you're not, I'll figure it out. Okay,
You're good.
I'll figure it out. And so we were living in a different time. Now today I agree with you. Today we should. This is totally wrong. We should not do this. I don't know what happened. The whole thing just crashed. Today is wrong, and every scholar agrees with you. I'm not the only one that agrees with you. A lot of Muslim scholars agree with you. This is wrong. And how do we know it's wrong if Muhammad, peace be upon him, has already been dead for 1400 years? Is it because we grew morally? No, it's because it already was the teaching in the Quran. But what happened was, you have to understand some verses came later than others, and some verses were very ambiguous, and some verses they said, for example, this is a filth, but still Prophet Muhammad allowed it for a certain time and allowed it with certain rules. And so slavery I was part of it. Slavery was allowed, but very strict rules, and it was allowed because the nobles needed them, the slaves needed the nobles, and it was basically something that worked. At that time, it was all over the universe. It was everywhere in the universe had slaves, and at that time, it wasn't really just to make money. It was literally to live. Like you basically had a maid, and that's it. So slaves at that time were maids. It's not like today where they build the whole country. You have to understand, the slaves back in the day were just maids. They're not like builders, and they're just maids. And yeah, some of them were grazers. They took care of the thing, but they lived really good lives. Like they lived with nobles. I really bring it back to today's age maid service in Dubai. Look at today's day age maid services in Dubai. A lot of people will say these are slaves. Are these slaves? A maid will leave Philippines, come down to the UAE, and live with a random family for 2 to 3 years, cleaning for them, being a nanny for their kids and everything. And after that, she leaves. Is that slavery, or is she trying to better her life? Like, what do you think?
I feel like it's definitely just not slavery, right? Because there's the choice. They have that choice,
Yeah,
right?
but it's very easy. They can keep her. They can seduce her very easily. She's all by herself in a different country. They can do anything they want to her. They can treat her, with fear, like make her fearful if she ever leaves. So how come there's no slavery? What it is that you have to have the intention of slaves. Also, you have to have the intention of enslaving somebody and ruining his life. Back in the day when the Muslims used to enslave people, they were not enslaving them to ruin their lives. They're just enslaving them because they were the enemy, or they were enslaving them because they couldn't live anywhere else, or they were enslaving them because they needed somebody to work for them and they paid them. But you still made money. It's not like today's slavery where you literally have no rights, don't exist. Like Prophet Muhammad's slaves were treated very nicely, but he did have slaves. Yeah,
Oh, he also had slaves.
he had a slave, Zayd bin Harith. I think his name was Zayd bin Harith. I know his name was Zayd for sure. And Zayd loved him so much. He was a little Syrian boy, I think. And his dad was looking for Zayd for 10 years. And when Zayd's dad found it, couldn't believe that he found him in Quraysh. And immediately he went to the Prophet. He was like begging the Prophet, this is my son. I really want him. Please give him to me. I've been looking for him for 10 years. You know what happened? You know that Zayd refused to go with his dad and stayed with his enslaved, whoever enslaved him. So, how can you explain to me why would a slave want to not leave his enslavement? Look at the story of Zayd, the slave of Prophet Muhammad. Literally, his dad found him after 10 years of looking and searching. And the day he found him, Prophet Muhammad told Zayd, "You can go with him." Zayd said, "No, can I stay with you, please?" And Prophet Muhammad allowed it. But if he like, how can Zayd? That means how can a slave refuse to go with his dad? That means that he was living a great life. So you have to understand that there's a difference connotation. It's like the word gravity. The word gravity that we used for Newtonian gravity, and Albert Einstein's gravity are totally two different gravities. A Newtonian gravity was an appeal to magic. Albert Einstein's gravity was a relative theory and it had an equation. Literally, they're the same word, but they're totally different meanings. And so that's what I say. I say slavery they're using the same word today, but you guys, what you did to the slaves, like what the Westerns did to the slaves, is something the Muslims never did to their slaves. And if they did, it's very small in nature. Like, yeah, there was torture of slaves, yeah, there was murder, but it was everywhere in the whole city knew about it. Everyone knew about it. Like, it's not something that you can hide. Whereas here in America, it was the normal thing to enslave and torture. And so I understand you have a very bad negative connotation of the word slaves, but we believe like some slaves decided to stay slaves. So how can you put a complete negative connotation on it? That means it had to do with survival, had to do with relationships, had to do with much more than just being enslaved. You get
I mean, yeah, I kind of get it, but I guess I can make the same argument that you made earlier whenever we were talking about when a woman goes to a maid service in Dubai, right? You don't know what's going to happen to them if they're staying there for 2 years. You don't know how, especially when you're talking about like I think you said young Syrian boy. If this was a young boy, he hasn't completely formed his own opinions on things, and his mind is very easily interchanged. So of course he would think. I'm not saying that there was anything bad. I obviously don't know. I'm not that knowledgeable on the subject, but there could be the instances that has happened that over time that he has formed a dependent relationship on the prophet, and even though you can, whether that's healthy or not, that could lead to bad things happening.
Yeah. So that's true. Sure. They could have manipulated. Yeah, I see what you mean. Like manipulation tactics. But it's so easy. Like let's say, can you manipulate? I guess you're right. Even in America, they manipulated certain slaves. I see what you
Yeah,
mean.
there was always
I was
the
about to say, can you manipulate slaves? Yeah, you could. You could give certain slaves certain treatment. They're better.
yeah, during
So I agree with
slavery.
you. What I just want you to know that Islam, it doesn't condone it. It recognizes what's happening. It doesn't ever tell you to go acquire slaves. And if it does, it tells you to acquire slaves that are slaves of battle. Like literally people, because what did people used to do to the people they just conquered? They would just murder all of them and enslave them. But what the Quran did is it gave certain teachings for this. So yeah, you can have them slaves, but they have to eat from your food. Yeah, you have to make sure they sleep good. You have to not overwork them. You have to have certain rules on them. So you can't just give them different food than you. So you have to basically take care of them. And so there's different connotation. Like our slaves in the Bible probably are different than the slaves from the Quran. Yeah, the Quran doesn't ever like the Quran doesn't ever tell you to go find people and enslave them. It just tells you if you fight people, make sure you. I don't think it even enslaves people. Like what it does is it just gives you rulings on what you should do with your slaves. But so yeah, so it does recognize that there was a true thing that was happening. And it does, but I don't think, in my opinion, until today, the scholars agree with me. Slavery is not allowed in Islam. We don't accept it. It was a different time. It was a time where you could not abolish slavery in a day, just like you couldn't abolish alcohol in a day. And so they took it in strides, and they kept trying to achieve. Like every year, they would free more slaves. Every year, they would take more lands and do more good. Every year, whenever they started taking lands, they stopped taking any more slaves. The second we got into Syria and Iraq, we stopped taking slaves and started giving them what is called jizya, which is the tax system. So we actually abolished slavery. We were the first people to abolish slavery. We stopped enslaving people. We would only enslave different the enemies because we didn't want them to go back and fight against us. And usually when they would be enslaved, immediately they would turn, or basically you're a prisoner of war. This happens still today. You call it, we call it a prisoner of war. But we actual is like the actual Arabs abolished slavery. Like Khalid bin Walid, when he used to win the battles in Syria and Iraq, he didn't take slaves. He took prisoners of war, but he didn't take slaves. What he did is, once he conquered the town, he would just force the town to pay him taxes. He never took slaves. So why is he not taking slaves? Well, that's literally the norm of every single nation at that time. Was once you conquer a nation, you just take every single human being in there as a slave, and you R-word all the women. Why didn't he do that? It's because Prophet Muhammad wouldn't allow it. So, so this is clear. If today's scholars disagree and say that we should not have slaves, this is illegal. And if even the Quran tells you it's okay to free a slave, it's good to free a slave, and it teaches you to free slaves, and having slaves is a very horrible act. It's a filthy act. You should not have slaves. And if you do have slaves, marry them. Marry them. Like literally, is figuring any way out, any solution out for these slaves is the Quran was such a realistic scripture. You have to understand. Finding any solution at that time, give me a solution for a slave. What's the solution besides murdering them or letting them go out in the desert and die? Literally, what they had no solutions. What, are you gonna go send him back to his parents? You're never gonna do that. So literally, it was either kill them. Like how are they supposed to abolish slavery? Just like either send every single slave back to his hometown, or let them run wild in the streets. You know what I mean? Creating a homeless issue, crisis, whatever. So instead, it gives you a very practical way to solve the issue. It says every time you free a slave, give him. If you have slaves, make sure you feed them, make sure you treat them good, and then when make sure they're strong, they're healthy, and then when if you want to be good, if you want to end in paradise, make sure you free slaves, make sure you give them properties, give them help. If you see anybody in need, take care of them. Marry your slaves, marry your slaves. It's telling them everything you can possibly do to get away from slavery. And how can you know what I mean? To me, at a time where there was no solution to such a problem, it's a prolific solution. It's a profound solution.
I feel like though that when it comes to that, like now that we do agree on the moral standpoint of, I think that the Quran and my moral opinions line up when it comes to slavery. But my moral opinion back in the day would have never allowed slavery, while the Quran, the way they formed their moral opinion would have, right? That's like the difference there.
I agree. But do you look at you? Do you agree? Do you allow all these trends to exist?
Do I allow trans people to like exist?
Yeah, do you allow all these LGBTQ, these people that corrupt society? Do you just allow them to exist? Like you're what you're trying to say is this is an act that corrupts society, so I wouldn't have allowed it. But I'm looking at you right now. So your society is getting corrupted up the wazoo. I'm not seeing you stopping anything. I'm not seeing you actually standing in the way of anything. I'm seeing you actually trying to understand those movements instead of trying to stand in its way. even though they're completely corrupt movements and they're corrupting your society. So, give me a reason why you're trying to stop slavery. You don't have a subjective. You don't have objective morality. You didn't even tell me why slavery was wrong.
I
You
can.
don't even know why slavery is wrong. Why is slavery wrong? My understanding is because you think it corrupts society, but I'm showing you a lot. Then tell me why is slavery wrong? Because if it's about corruption of society, I see a lot of groups corrupting society that we condone here today.
Yeah, no, my moral view never comes from like corruption of society. It's always about if the harm. It's always about the harm reduction. Remember, we talked about the harm reduction, right? If I
Okay,
was
so
a person in
so
slavery, I wouldn't want slavery done to me. So why would I want slavery?
that's amazing. So harm reduction. Let's say the slaves would have died if we like I can argue to you that I actually argued this to you that if we let the slaves and freed them altogether, they were just created a lot of anguish and a lot of suffering. It would have been a bunch of slaves running around, no food, nobody to feed them, and they would have had to figure it out by themselves, either by traveling through the desert that they have no idea on how to travel, or by staying in the country that they don't even know about. You have to understand that there was no airports by that time. They had to literally traverse months long treks through the deserts. Okay, it's not like a couple of days, it's a month long trek. You're a slave, that you're enslaved. Tell me, how is it better for you to be thrown out of your home, to be in the street all alone with no food, nobody to take care of you, in a time that had no police, no, and bandits everywhere in the streets, ready to just take whatever. If you have any clothes, if you have shoes, they'll take it, just like today in New York. So tell me, how is that? To me, I argue that actually keeping some of these slaves was actually better for the slaves. That's my argument. My argument was, at least that's part of my argument, is a lot of these slaves would have died if we actually released them. And then I also argued that we stopped enslaving. Like when we were taking over Syria, when we were taking over Iraq, we stopped enslaving. We're not enslaving anybody. So we were giving them their country. They just have to pay us taxes. So tell me, how would have you solved this solution? What was your solution to slavery at a time where there was no caravans that could take them anywhere? And if you did, you had to pay money and you had to travel for a long time and you had to bring your own fucking resources. And what slave has resources for a month or two to travel? You know what I mean? Explain to me, like, how can you justify that freeing every single slave is better for them than living a nice life with the nobles that took care of them?
Because I guess, like, from my point of view or from my morality, there would have never been slaves in the first place for that issue to occur, right? And I
Like,
think if there was
agree with me. You even agree with me. Even the atrocities in America and the slaves, still they found some slaves that agreed to stay with slaves, and still they were able to coerce some slaves, even though they were super atrocious to all these slaves and they did so much. Still, some slaves decided to follow. Why? Because the slave himself, he saw that it didn't harm him, it bettered his situation. You see what I mean? So if your compass is to better somebody's situation, how can you explain that you're bettering the slave situation when he's telling you himself, leave me alone, man, I want to be enslaved, leave me alone, man? Even in the time of the black slaves, there were still slaves that wanted to be enslaved, that they would call, like whenever somebody's running away, they would be traitors to them and call on.
I think I can actually put this in a way that I think that you can find the same answer. Trans people, like, you would disagree with that. They think the same thing, right? Although I think that it's a okay thing for society. You think that it's not an okay thing for society, but they want to do it, right?
I know, but it's like alcohol. It doesn't matter what they think. Like for some reason, I want to drink alcohol. It doesn't matter what I think anymore. It's already been outlawed. So there are certain things that are outlawed. It doesn't matter what you believe in. Like, yeah, okay, the Quran will align with the slaves that want to stay slaves. Yeah, you know what I mean. It aligns, but that doesn't mean that that's every slave. But and so just because the Quran aligns with my objective morality that, oh, some slaves wanted to be there, that doesn't mean every slave wanted to be there. And so, but you also have to look at the teachings. Is this the right teaching that the Quran was teaching? And the Quran did not teach in slaves, or did not teach to enslave. And at that time, they were really pushing to not enslave. And anybody that was enslaving was looked down on. Like, they knew about him, they heard about him. And so if it's not teaching you to be trans and you're doing trans stuff, everybody's gonna look down on you. They're gonna know that you're not following the teaching.
I was just trying to get to the general point of, although there could be some situations in which someone has an opinion that of what's best for them, we can both agree that sometimes that is the wrong opinion, right? And the easy way to see, I feel like, is to see like what are the effects of that opinion, like the effects of slavery. Now we understand.
No. To me, that slave that was living there, he's happy. It's none of my business. What if he's telling me I want to stay a slave? That's none of my business. Okay, look, we're gonna tell him, hey, you shouldn't be slave. And then if I'm a Muslim, I'll be like, okay, you're free. He'll be like, okay, but I still want to live with you. Okay, that's fine. You can live with me, but you're free. You're not my slave anymore. But I want to live with you. Okay, that's fine. Live with me, but you're free. That's what it is. So how am I supposed to tell him, get the fuck out of here? No, you go live alone. Go out. You're free. You step on his head and kick him out of the house. No, I'm not gonna do that. But I'm still gonna free him. But he might still want to stay with me. Am I gonna fight him against that?
Yeah, but the difference is between staying with them in slavery is the freement, right? You are freeing him from the bad thing. That's what I think is the key difference there, though. If he stays afterwards, he's not staying as a slave. He would be staying as, I think you said, like a maid, right? Where they're not the same instance.
I know, but to me, I know slavery is wrong, not because it hurts somebody. Because a lot of people can tell me, no, I'm very happy to be a slave. I know it's wrong because it's a filthy act. God described it as a filthy act. Why do you believe slavery is wrong? And if you believe slavery is wrong, how do you condone all these other movements that are happening that are creating a lot of weirdness in society? So I'm trying to understand, what is your moral compass looking for? Is it looking for? It's not looking for harm, because
It
not
is.
every single slave is harmed. It's not looking for happiness, because post-op a lot of these people are suiciding. It's not about happiness. So what are you looking? How do you know what's right and wrong? I know what's right and wrong because I follow the Quran. How do you know what's right and wrong? Because you're telling me slavery was wrong, but a lot of disagree with you.
I do think that you are right that a lot of slaves would disagree with me, but I think that's with everything, right? If you went and freed everyone who was sex trafficking, there are gonna be people who were like, I was okay in that situation because of, I don't know what the effect's called in your head, but there's an effect where you think that you're okay in a situation that you're not. I'm not saying that every situation's like that. There probably were some slaves that did have better situations, but I think as
Exactly.
a whole, it shouldn't be okay for people to hold slaves. I think that's the more general point.
I
It
know,
isn't
but why?
because it's harming. It's all about the harm.
What if it doesn't harm?
It's a very minute instance. I think I can agree with you that maybe
Today's
0.1%.
age is very easy to have slaves without harming them. Very easy. Look at the UAE maids. They'll never ever say that they're slaves, but
But that's because
I
they're
mean,
not slaves. They chose to go there, right?
borderline. I would say borderline slaves,
But I feel like the
right?
biggest key point about slavery is the choice, right? They didn't American slavery. They didn't choose to be slaves. I think in the Middle East when slavery happened over there, no one chose to be a slave. Like you said, it was from the conquering of war, where instead of killing everyone in the town, they instead took them as slaves. There's no choice in that.
So if somebody comes to you and tells you, I want to be a slave, you'll be like, yes, go for it.
If someone came up to me and said, I want to be a slave, I I wouldn't have an opinion. It's not going to harm me. It's them making their own choice. If they were like, I want to go and sell myself into slavery, I would be like, you should probably go to a mental health facility and get yourself checked out. But that's because I view slavery as a wrong. It's not, you know what I mean? I think that slavery as a whole is wrong, and that's why it's illegal. I would tell him that it's illegal. He can't go into slavery in America today. That's illegal.
That's true. That's true. That's sure. But you're thinking of it as wrong because you're thinking of it as the slavery of the 1800s century. I'm thinking of it as the slavery of the 500th century.
Did they have a
And
choice
they're
at that
totally
time?
two different things. There's totally two different enslavement.
Yeah, but from what I gathered from what you said, they didn't choose to be a slave then either, did they? It was from war, right? It was from conquest and war, right?
Most of the slaves, yeah. It was better for you to free the nobles of the country of the city. Still is enslaved a lot, but we don't agree with these nobles. And even Prophet Muhammad had a slave, but he already freed him. The guy just wanted to stay with him. He already freed him. I told you the story. He freed him. The guy just stood next to him. What is he supposed to do? Kick him out? And now everybody's gonna say, "Oh, well, Prophet Muhammad is a slave," but he freed the slave. He didn't. But the slave just wanted to stay there. What is he supposed to do? Kick him out?
Well, again,
Like,
he
it was
can
a wrong
stay just
thing
not
to
as a
do. Just because the
slave.
nobles were doing it doesn't mean it was right.
Yeah, but he can stay just not as a slave, right? That's the whole point of slavery being outlawed. And then I think
Yeah,
that,
exactly.
and I
So
think,
the second I tell you I do want to be a slave, your whole argument falls apart.
what?
Like
No,
for me,
they
I
held
just tell
together.
you, okay, you can stay with me, but you're not a slave anymore. But I force you to not be a slave. For you, you're like, You actually have no opinion. You're like, oh, if you want to be a slave, yeah, you can go for
No,
it.
you can't be a slave. That's the whole
No, you
point.
actually want to. No. You're creating harm for me. What?
Yeah, you can't be a slave. That's the whole point because there's harm
No,
in
but I want to be
slavery.
a slave. How can you stop me from becoming a slave? Why would you stop me
Because
from being a slave?
here's a good question: do you think the majority of slavery caused harm? Not the very minute instances, just the majority of slavery as a
I
whole.
agree. I know that 100% is a filthy act, but I'm trying to get to you.
Okay.
Me and you, I don't know why we're acting like we have the same moral compass. We don't.
True.
Me and you, we don't have the same
But
moral
we have
compass.
some. We might not have the exact same moral compass. We have the same
It
ends,
looks
though.
like we do.
Yeah.
It looks like we do because you look at bad things that are happening. I look at filthy things. I look at filth. I look at disgust. I look at corruption of society. You are looking at happiness.
I'm looking at
Right?
harm.
So happiness does not matter. Just
Not
harm.
really. You can do things that are happy that I don't think you should do. I think there are sadists that would love to kill people on the street and become happy. I don't think they should do that because that's harming someone, right? I do have the very clear distinction between happiness and harm.
So my question is, so when you get to a really nuanced situation, almost like October 7, how do you reconcile with your position? Because your position is to not create harm, but you also recognize that you might have to create harm to defend yourself. So how do you reconcile, or do you just throw out the all that harm principle when it comes to saving yourself?
When it comes
like
to
the Israelis.
self-defense, no, because when it comes to self-defense, that's you using harm to defend yourself against harm. The first person that caused the initial instance of harm that you were defending yourself against, they committed the wrong, right? Would you want someone to hurt you? No. Would you want someone to defend you? Yes, that's the harm reduction. If you defend yourself, that's harm reduced against yourself. I feel like that's how you view that, right? Especially when it comes to self-defense.
That's amazing, man. A lot of your principles, I guess Islam is just so logical because a lot of your principles line up perfectly with Islam. Yeah, you're not supposed to be ever oppressor or the attacker. But you're allowed to defend yourself, right?
Yeah.
But you're never ever allowed to oppress anybody or attack them for out of no necessity. So it's very interesting. But you use a totally different compass. You totally come to it logically, and I think your logic is a little bit faulty still.
Could you point out a fault?
I can still find you certain places where creating harm is actually good for you, and you should be creating harm. Like going to the gym, you should be going to the gym. You should be forcing damage upon your body, and you can better yourself from it.
Yeah, but the overview of everything everyone on Earth would agree that the overview of gym is good for you, right? It's not harm; it's the opposite.
Well, this is what I keep telling you because you have a subjective morality.
I think everyone
now
would.
Actually changing. It's actually changing. Now they're calling us fat phobic because we like to go to the.
I think when fat phobic comes in, this is a very different topic, but I think that comes from people telling people how they should act in their own life, which is harm. I feel like
it's a very relevant topic because I don't think everybody in this Western society actually believes going to the gym is good for you. I believe there's a law, at least 10 to 25% that believe going to the gym is fat phobic. I don't know what kind of ideology. I don't know how they came up to this. I'm still trying to understand how you're coming up with your morality. And so they can come up with anything they want. I don't know how they're coming up to it, but they're coming up to these conclusions where going to the gym because there's no objectivity in it. They're not falling back on scripture. They're not falling back on somebody's guide. They're just coming up with their whims and more. And now it's very easy to control these whims. Very easy to. All you have to do is alter the teachings. All you have to do is change the society norms a little bit and like basically add sex education. And now you got a bunch of kids fucking each other. You know what I mean? Just alter a little bit of teachings. You can change the actual society. And so it's very easy to control these people when you have subjective morality. So I'm still very, very confused.
So I'll restate the general point of my morality comes from the idea of you shouldn't be able to harm other people in any way, emotionally, physically. I feel like if you wouldn't want that harm done to you, you shouldn't do it to other people. Okay. So I feel like the big point is
yourself.
Well, it's only if I think the general point there, the key point is that you wouldn't want that harm done to you, so you don't want it done to other people.
But a lot of things in the world harm you, like you getting up early in the morning to go work and take care of your family. That's very, very stressful on the body and can really lower somebody's lifespan. Like, do you think that's wrong?
No, because I think, again, when you look over it generally, the outcome is instead not harmful, good. I think going to job while you could have back pain, I have that actually from doing my job after the day after I'm really sore, right? But the outcome is $200. Do I personally view that me hurting my back was worth that $200? Well, depends on the day, obviously, but obviously I view that harm as differently, and that's a harm I'm putting onto myself. There's a difference between a harm you're putting onto yourself and harm you're putting on the others. I think we can both agree.
Okay, interesting. So the outcome justifies the mean. The end justifies the means.
Not in every instance. I think you have to look at, is the harm outweighing the mean, and does everyone see that as harm, right? Because you can say, do the end justify the means? Not really. I don't think America, going into the 20 wars that they did, although it made America a more prosperous country, which is a good thing, I don't think the harm outweighs the good there just because the end was good, right? You can view the end not being a good thing, but the ways you come to it a bad thing, right? I think getting rid of slavery, a good thing. I don't think the 200 years of slavery in America were a good thing as well. I don't think good means good and bad means bad. I think you can mix those outcomes, and you should not want that bad in any instance.
Yeah, very interesting. Very, very interesting, man. Yeah, I think you're very close. I'm just very scared about this subjective morality because have you ever shifted your opinions on things like drastically?
Have I ever shifted?
Do you ever shift your opinion on things just by learning a little bit more information? You immediately shift.
Yeah, of course. That's
For example,
why.
let's talk about Gaza and Palestine. Like maybe you would think Israel really needs to defend itself. Like if you actually don't know the history, you would actually believe that they're being attacked on October 7th. But then when you realize the history, you realize it's occupying force. This is a non-partitioned lands, so this are occupied lands. The UN recognizes illegal settlements. The UN recognizes they should not be in that land as Israelis. And so when Hamas goes in and bombs, um, like for you, if you already know one side of the story, very easy to create with your subjective morality a complete explanation for why Israel has to completely eradicate Hamas or eradicate the Gaza. Whereas for me, I have a little bit more understanding of you. We have both subjective morality, but I come up with a totally different conclusion because I learned a little bit more. Is that possible in your worldview?
I don't think so, because I don't think you can get into an instance where you justify harm. Your example highlighted that perfectly, right?
Wait. We can. When defend yourself.
Sorry, I mean just a malicious harm. Sorry, malicious harm. Bombing the people in
Wait,
Gaza, right?
What did you say? What? How?
Malicious,
What
like
harm?
bad will harm.
Oh,
They're doing
malicious.
bad.
Okay,
Yes.
malicious.
Okay. So when we're talking about if you don't know the history of Gaza, you could maybe think that it's okay that they attack. I don't think it's okay for Israeli people to bomb civilians. I think that's a very easy position to take, right? I don't think that they have a choice in that matter. The civilians
you
didn't
can
choose to be
justify
there.
it with your morality. You could just say, and I'm gonna give it to you. I'm gonna prove it to you right now,
Okay.
and you tell me if I'm wrong or right. Do you agree that Israel? Okay, well, I need to know first. Do you think Israel had a right to defend itself for October 7th?
For October 7th, do I think yeah, it had a right to defend itself. If
Post
you're
October
saying
7th
justice
attack.
defend itself on the attacks of October
Right?
7th, of
Right.
course.
Okay. So this is the scary part because subjective morality. Right now, me and you, we have totally different facts of the matter. Like, look. Like we both are using subjective morality, but you have facts. It's very easy. Like I could say, in Israel, October 7th, they were actually trying to normalize relations with Palestine. Hamas maliciously came in and attacked right before a diplomatic talk speech where they were going to come to a two-state solution. And so Hamas was malicious, and they actually decided to break apart that whole peace talks, and to create more anguish. So we should get rid of Hamas because what they did October 7th. And then you can come to me and say, no. You don't understand. When you don't understand, what happened was that before October 7th, the Hamasis, three of these legion men lost their mothers, and so they've been plotting a story with a couple of friends to try to take over this land, and they were able to convince a couple of their other friends to come and to take. And so they were very angry. They were very upset. They wanted their freedoms back. They wanted to take some of their lands back. And so they came in. They just wanted to shoot some IDF soldiers, but they found anybody in front of them and started shooting because they were scared. So for me, I can start to justify and give you a story. Okay, my story justifies that there's more harm coming to the Palestinians than the Israelis. Your story justifies that the Israelis are getting more harm than the Palestinians. Which one of us is right?
Neither. I don't think harm justifies harm, though. As I said, if you don't want
Yeah,
harm being done to you, no, I don't. You said that they have the right to defend themselves. I think we both agree. When I say harm, I mean malicious harm. Obviously, there are harms that are good, right? So whenever I say self-defense, if they get attacked, they have the right to defend themselves. The same way if Palestine got attacked by Israel. Palestine has the right to defend itself. I see that on both sides.
So you actually agree that Israel can defend itself, and then you agree Palestine can defend itself.
Of course, I think
So what if
anyone
I
should have
tell
the
you
right to defend
Hamas-
himself.
What if I tell you Hamas was a resistance movement and they were trying to defend themselves? Do you agree now with what October 7th, post October 7th?
Not because of the facts I heard, but if you said objectively, if you could prove to me that, yes, but then I'd have the point of, one, there were shooting civilians at a festival. How could you ever make the case that those festival goers have done harm to Hamas?
See, my point here is what I'm trying to get to is me and you are never going to find a solution if we use only subjective moralities. Because you have certain information and I have certain information. You won't accept my information, I won't accept yours. And we can very easily get to a stalemate. And you're going to say I'm unreasonable, I'm going to say you're unreasonable. Very easy we can get to a stalemate, okay? That's why subjective morality to me is very dangerous. Right now, the only way with subjective morality to find the solution to this is to just keep looking, is to just let it go on and see what happens.
I don't
Tell
think
me
that's
from
how it
subjective
is.
morality, what's your solution to this, what's happening right now in Gaza?
I mean, obviously, with morality, you're going to get a very Disney-coded answer, but it would be peace, right? You would see peace upon the no
I
fighting.
know, but who gets the peace?
Huh? Both sides. It would be peace on both sides. No more fighting.
How would you
no
do
more
that?
harm.
How would you do that subjectively with your subjective morality? How do you give them peace?
By reducing harm, having no harm on either side. You would increase the living.
What's the solution? Like, what is this? One state, two states?
So one state or two. That's a very more nuanced. That's not morality. That's like legal, right? When you're taking of states, now you're talking about legality, right? The state lines, the property.
No, but I'm talking about even when it comes to those solutions, we might disagree. Even if we agree that this might reduce harm, we might disagree on the solution. We don't have an objective way to weigh our decisions. Is this good or bad? Besides, let it go on and see what happens. Like literally, that's why.
But that's what I'm saying. What you're saying is that there are different moral outcomes to our subjective moralities, which is true. But that's true in religion as well. If I looked it up, I could find a scholar of today that defends the Quran and he cherry picks quotes to defend slavery. Right? It's the same problem that you are pointing out to me is the same problem that occurs within religion, especially with I don't know a lot about the Quran, but with Christianity today, there is different churches that allow LGBTQ people. I think the Pope recently came out and said he will allow them to bless marriages now. And then there will be churches that say they don't, right? But they both had the same moral compass, but they had different outcomes. It's not like
So which one is right?
There is no right that's the point of morality.
See, this is what I'm talking about. You have no idea which one is the right way to go. You actually have no idea. At least for me, I can tell you objectively speaking, this is wrong.
But you can't.
And it will never change.
If someone came to you and they also read the Quran and they have the quote of he had never explicitly stated in the Quran that they get rid of slavery, and you're like, well, I have these sayings that said he did.
He's wrong.
How?
Because I have objective morality. Because he must have done something. This is not me who's studying this. This is scholars that studied this, so they really understand the language and they understand the actual the history behind every verse. So there's an intention and a history behind every single verse. It's very easy to know the intention and the history behind it. There's stories that they tell about every single verse. So he must have had to switch it. Like, for example, right now, I'll tell you the Shias are all wrong. They're a completely different sect from me. Every single Shia is totally wrong, 100% wrong. They're not, to me, they're still Muslims because they believe there's one God, but I believe they're borderline kuffar, infidels, 100%. They call themselves Muslims. To me, I don't believe they're Muslims. They pray next to us, but sure, I accept them as Muslims because it's none of my business. I'm not God to sit here and accept. But to me, I would never, ever, ever believe in their teaching. I would never, ever, ever agree with them. And we pray in different mosques. That's how far it is. So this situation actually happened in the Muslim Ummah, and it actually fractioned the Muslim Ummah. And I'm telling you, that's why the subjective morality is so dangerous. It actually fractions the.
But doesn't that show how your side also has subjective morality?
That's what I'm telling you. That's why it's very important to use objective morality for this world, because even the same side can find the wrong outcome to the same solution. They're literally, it's so nuanced, it's so delicate. This is why objective morality is so precious, because it does answer a lot of questions. Now, no. You have to understand, by the way, they're not using objective morality. When it comes to the Quran, we agree on everything. What they do is they differ on the hadith, the speech. the speech of the Prophet Muhammad. They accept really weak hadiths that we don't accept
But then
as a Sunni. That's the difference. So there, it's actually subjective difference. It's actually subjective opinion is difference, not objective. Like the Quran, we do not disagree in anything in the Quran. We agree in everything. We agree on that you have to give when you marry a girl, you have to give her money, meher. We agree on meher. They disagree. They have a saying from one of their scholars that tells them that your meher could be a rose. For us, as Sunnis, we don't accept that at all. As we don't accept a rose as a meher. We don't accept a dowry as a rose. No, 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 no way. You know what I mean? So we disagree there. We don't agree with them at all. So, but what do we disagree on? The subjective differences, not the objective. We agree that we have to get married. We agree that you have to give out dowry. We just disagree on the amount. You see what I mean? That's where we disagree. So we agree actually in the Quran. You'll never see two Muslims disagree on the Quran. That's impossible. Because there's objective moral.
You can, because there's gonna be, if you and someone else read someone, you're gonna come to different conclusions. That's just how everything works, right?
No, 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 no. So this is what happens. There's the hadith. Okay, the Quran. Okay, look. Let me read one. Let me read one passage from the Quran really quickly. And he taught Adam the names of all things. Then he placed them before the angels and said, "Tell me the names of these if you are truthful." They said, the angel said, "Glory be to you. We possess no knowledge save what you have taught us. Indeed, you alone are all-knowing, the wise." He said, "O Adam, inform them of their names." When he had informed them, Allah said, "Did I not tell you that I know what is unseen in the heavens and on earth? And I know what you reveal and what you hide. It is from Allah's kindness and immense favor to us. He has endowed the human being with the ability to learn." Okay, so this is they're explaining to you. But Surah Al-Baqarah 31, there's no confusion on that surah. That surah is explaining how Adam knows the context of words. That surah explains that Adam understands context. That understand context that angels don't understand. Where there's no difference in that. There's nobody that can, no scholar that can tell you, no, we actually believe that this is a verse that was talking about somebody else. No, there's no difference on that. We all agree. Every scholar in the Quran will agree. When it comes to the Quran, it's all been already studied. It's all been agreed upon. The only differences that happens is in the hadith. There, what happens is the hadith, the sayings of the Prophet. There are some strong, authenticated saying. There are some weak sayings. Then there are weaker, and then there's absolutely unacceptable. The Shia are listening to the unacceptable sayings, so they agree with new things that we've never agreed on. Okay, they believe the acceptable sayings. We don't believe in them. We disagree with them.
What if
But
they
to
are
sit here and read the
acceptable?
Quran and tell me, well, did the angels actually know their names or not? No, we don't disagree on that. We actually all agree on what the Quran tells us, because a lot of what the Quran is ambiguity, and we just have to trust it. But what we disagree on is the small rulings of the living in society. That's what we disagree on. But we believe in the Quran. We can never disassociate with the Quran. That's why I believe they're Muslims.
There's gonna be people though that do that, right? There are gonna be people who justify slavery behind the Quran, right? As there were in its time. Then how, like,
Yeah, but those people, if they fail, because all you have to do is ask for their evidence, and then when they provide it, it's clear as day that there's no evidence. Bring me evidence that there's slavery in the Quran.
actually, let me pull something up.
Yeah, let's try this.
Yeah, in real time. Let me see it.
The problem is very hard for you to find a verse in the Quran that says you should have slaves. Make sure when you go in, enslave everybody. You might find that in the Bible. So there's differences between the books, but there's no differences in in what we learned about the Quran from the sects. Here I'm reading here, for example, on Wikipedia, Islamic views on slavery represent a complex and multifaceted body of Islamic thought, with various Islamic groups or thinkers espousing views on the matter, which have been radically different throughout history. So
There is differences that you
they
can
are
come to.
learning. Basically, they grow through. Slavery was a mainstay of life in pre-Islamic Arabia and surrounding lands. The Quran and the Hadith address slavery extensively, assuming its existence as part of society.
Oh,
but
so he
viewing
actually
it,
thinks it was
yeah,
a part
but
of
listen, but
society.
viewing it and as an exceptional condition and restricting its scope. So, like I told you, it's at that time. How are you going to get rid of your slaves? You're going to just send him to the desert?
Again, you would never have slaves.
No. But the nobles already. Every single noble had a slave at that time.
Yeah,
Every
that's what I'm
single
saying.
noble.
That's where I would already be. I would see what you're saying is at this point, what do they do? I would never get to that point, right? I don't. With my morality, there would have never been like slaves to be owned.
Yeah, but do you know that the Arabs used to murder their own daughters? Like that's how their morality was shook. Like
and that would be
before
harm, and I would
Islam,
disagree with that.
before Islam, they were very bad. You have to understand they had their morality was they would feel embarrassed by women, by their daughters, so they would murder their own daughters. Look at the stories. It's called Wa'd al-Banat. It's been recognized in the Quran for how much of a filthy act it was. At 5 years old, it was a ritual. At 5 years old, you dress her up in the best clothes, you take her out to the woods in a well, you throw her down, and she never comes back up. That's every single nobleman did that. They wanted boys. They did not want girls because they used to bring a lot of embarrassment to the family. The Quran came and stopped that. Quran came and stopped that. So Quran came to save these Arabs. So they used to do disgusting things. They used to enslave people. You're right, but Quran came to stop that. Yeah, it didn't stop it immediately. It recognized they existed, just like it didn't stop alcohol immediately because it took some time for alcohol to be restricted. But it recognized it was a filthy act immediately.
After
Like it
the
didn't
fact,
recognize
though.
immediately, but when you recognize the final verse, you recognize, holy moly, this whole time God thought about alcohol as a filthy act. Why the hell was I ever touching it? Disgusting. Ooh, no, I'm staying away from this. Like us, yeah, we do make mistakes all the time. The Arabs were the worst of the worst. The Arabs were bad. They were killing their own daughters, man. Islam saved them.
It says the Quran permits owners to take slaves as concubines, though it promotes abstinence as a better choice. It strictly prohibits slave prostitution, but there are 29 verses of the Quran. Most of these are it says Medinan, and refer to the
Medina.
legal status of slaves.
Yes. So the Medina verses they basically give you the law of how to treat people,
So
and
it
then
permits them.
but the verses they give you, both of them gave you laws in Mecca and Medina. But yeah. So what do you understand from that verse?
That doesn't that show that it did permit it in the Quran? If it's saying the legal status, if they did speak on the legal status and they did say that you can, what was the one other thing that it said? That you could have, was it sex with them?
Yeah. So the concubines. So I when I read that verse the first time, I didn't understand. It's a very, very difficult verse to read. Can you read it?
The exact verse I'm on. The
Yeah.
wiki.
Can you actually read the verse? It's a very weird verse, and when I had to read it multiple times. It doesn't say actual concubine. What it says is what your right hand possesses. That's literally the actual wording for it. And I think what it means is your slaves, and that's how I understood it. But what your right hand possesses, basically anybody that
Okay.
you have ruling over, I think.
This might be it, but I'm gonna see. If any of you who do not have the means to marry free women who are believing you may marry, believing girls from whom your right hand possesses, Allah knows best about your faith. You are all the same in that respect. Marry them with the approval of their families and give them their gifts correctly and courteously as married women, not in fornication or as taking them as lovers. And then
Sorry. I was talking to somebody. Go ahead.
You're good.
No, I'm listening.
And if they commit adultery, they should receive half the punishment of ordinary women. This is for those of you who are afraid of falling into sin, but being patient is better for you. So doesn't it permit that in that verse?
So it's a very that verse. Can you read the history of the verse?
I don't know the
Does it
history
come
of
with a story?
Muhammad.
What's the verse number?
The verse number is Quran 70, 29, 30. So page 29, 30, and then it's Quran 70.
All right, because the Quran has stories, and it explains every single verse. There's a story for every single verse. So you said 70, 2,300?
It was Quran 70, and then it was 20. It's either on page 29 or page 30. That's the hyphen.
Okay,
But
okay,
wait.
I got it.
I just remember earlier, whenever you were speaking about Israel, though, you said the problem with my morality was that you could make up a story to sway the opinion on my morality. Isn't that kind of the same here? Don't you see the same thing forming? Where like that's
No,
just a general
no,
prompt.
because the story is actually about what made the verse come down. So what happens is something happens, there's a conflict that occurs, and then the verse falls, and then it basically solves the conflict. So
But
let me
again,
give you a little bit about this.
doesn't that kind of show though that it happens on both sides where morality can change depending on like the story that's behind it, or at least on your side that the Quran, the statements that it gives out are based on the history and what happened before it, not the actual idea of it itself. Like in the
Wait.
Quran,
So what you're saying is the story is what differentiated it, right?
what I was saying is earlier in us talking about morality, you said the problem with my morality was that if you gave me a story, it could influence my morality, and then you tried to point out two faulty points in it, but both times I did end up having the same moral opinion. The story did not change it, but then whenever I bring up slavery in the Quran, the first defense that you bring up is, well, we need to see the story behind it. Isn't that kind of
Yeah,
the same
because
thing?
I need to understand the verse. I'm not understanding it. Look. The problem is you're reading in English. No. What I'm not trying to explain it to you. I'm just trying to understand the actual verse. So this is what it is. So this is how I know. This is why I know that the Quran is real, because I actually investigate every part of it. Okay, so I need to know what was the reason for why this came, so I understand what. So I actually give you my opinion on what's happening. So that's the only thing. I just found it. Who guard their private parts, who abstain from adultery as well as from nudity and exposing their private parts before others, except in regard to their spouses and those whom their right hand possesses. For in regard to them, they are not reproachable. But any who seeks to go beyond that, it is indeed they who are the transgressor. So go ahead, explain to me what is the right, does the Quran mean by what your right hand possesses? What does the Quran? It doesn't say your slave. It doesn't say your concubine. It says what whom their right hand possesses. And to me, I understood that as maybe a slave. But what do you understand that as?
I would make the exact same distinction during that time. Who you possess would be your slave, either that or someone you would possess. I would hope it would be slaves because the other logical conclusion I
Yeah.
could think of is like children, and that one's a lot worse.
Yeah. So basically, to me, what I understand is whoever has ruling over you, or whoever you have control over. If you want, you can marry them. This is better than for you than to just commit adultery with them. That's what I understand this verse to
Do
say.
you
Look at what it
personally
says.
believe that? Do you think that forcing
Yeah,
someone into
one hundred
marriage?
percent,
Wait,
100%. Are you kidding me? Is it better to go fuck the person you just captured in the war, or to marry them before you fuck them? Yeah, of
no,
course
no,
you're
no, that's not
supposed
what
to
I'm
marry
saying.
them.
Sorry, that's not the question. No, the question is it better to go have sex with someone without marriage and it is of their will and free choice to do that, or is it better to have sex with someone that does not have choice in the matter?
No, because these are not people that don't have choice in the matter. These are people that your right hand possesses. These are people that you
Possess, you own.
directly are controlling their faith. You are directly controlling their faith. So to be honest with you, they're begging you for anything good. You know what I mean? Especially in a time of war.
But in this, it is
So
slaves. It's talking
and
about
actually,
people.
this is actually profound. This is actually proof that we are consistent as Muslims. We don't actually, oh, because it's a war zone, go ahead, do whatever you want. We actually force you, and he says here, 70:31 says, but any who seeks go beyond that, it is indeed they are who are transgressors. So he says to the believers, he says, look, you're in the middle of the war zone, you grabbed a couple of girls. If you want, jerk off. If you don't want to jerk off, you can marry whoever you capture. You can't go marry the girl that other guy captured. Okay? You can marry whoever you captured who's under your ruling if you want to do that and commit to them. And at that time, man, don't act like women are not ready to marry the first person that came. They literally would die if they weren't married.
I still think that
Like,
choice plays a lot of part of it, though. A slave doesn't
no,
have a
no, 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 no,
choice.
no. The woman. This is the thing about women. The women are actually normal. This is normal for them to switch. It's so normal for women to switch. Only men actually fall in love. Women don't fall in love. Women fall in love with character. Women fall in love with with what you provide for them. Men fall in love with virtue. Men fall in love with personality. Men fall in love with who you are as a person. Women never fall in love with you who you are as a person. Women only fall in love with you with what you can provide for them at that moment in time. This is clear, and it's been like that since ever.
Isn't
so these
that the same
women,
for
it's
men,
very
though?
easy for them. It's very easy for them to flip. Look, I'm not condoning this, but we're looking at this in a time where there's a war zone. There's literally no law of land. At that time, what would happen was the Roman Empire would come rape everybody in the town, kill all the men, rape all the women, and then take a bunch of slaves, whatever is left for the kids, right? The kids are slaves. This is the only time in history where somebody comes in and tells them, hey, stop it. You cannot do that. Whoever you took over, you were forced to marry them. You have to take care of her for the rest of your life because she's going to be the mother of your kids. Or you cannot commit this, go jerk off behind that tree. There's nothing better than this, man. There's nothing better than this. There's no subjectivity in this at all. It's so clear. You see how me and you, we don't even disagree on the verses. It's so hard for us to disagree on
We
the
have a
verses.
major disagreement here, though.
No, we don't.
This is what I'll say.
We both agree. We both agree that whoever your right hand possesses is basically whoever you have control over, and we both agree they're not allowed to go and mess around with anybody else, or they would be transgressors.
Wait, can't you have multiple wives in the Quran?
Yeah, but any who seek to go beyond that, it is indeed they who are the transgressor. That means you're only allowed to go to your spouse or to whoever your right hand possesses. You're not allowed to go run around the mick and marry whoever the fuck you want. That's literally what this verse is saying.
Wait, is there a limit on marriages in the Quran, or can you technically marry everyone?
There's a limit, maximum 4, but the
Four.
Prophet Muhammad had many more.
Nah. Wait, so he just went against the Quran?
Prophet Muhammad has been so he used to marry. So like I told you, a lot of the teachings are evolving, and at the time he was the prophet, and what he would do, he used to marry his companions, his fallen companions' wife. So the wife would be all alone, and God gave him that right. God gave him the right. So some of them he wouldn't even sleep with them. He would just marry them just to make sure he takes care of them. And but they were basically part of his family. But there's a couple of them that he never slept with.
I feel like the big part that I have with that quote, though, is I'll ask this again because I don't know if you did answer, but is sex without marriage but the choice of sex better than sex with marriage but they don't have the choice in sex for women? Which one's better?
So sorry. I'm not sure. What was that? What was that? What you said?
So what is it? I could make sex questions sound really better if I knew the exact term, but is sex without marriage but they choose to have that sex as a woman?
Zina, adultery.
Adultery, thank you. Is adultery, but you get to choose to do that, better than being married and having sex, but it's forced upon you? Which one's better in your morality from the Quran?
My morality, I cannot pick and choose. I just, whatever God told me is the right thing is the right. So I believe that being married and committing yourself to 1 to 4 wives, that is the right way to go. No adultery at all. No, not even dating. And I prefer that for my daughter. I prefer that for my mother. Prefer that for my sister.
So obviously there's going to be a general disagreement, but isn't that like, whenever we come to like harm reduction, I feel like that's just such a big harm where if you marry someone, you can have sex with them without their choice, and I feel like that's so much worse than, that's what you use.
Have you ever heard of an arranged marriage? Like, is that?
And
immoral?
I don't agree with that other. Yes.
That's immoral. You actually believe arranged marriage is immorality?
If the woman does not have a choice in the matter, yes.
Holy moly! So why is it immoral?
Because they don't have a choice. Why is slavery wrong?
But the woman has a choice. She's allowed to accept or
if she
decline.
chooses it, it's not wrong. That's what I'm saying. When you ask,
okay, what if the woman's choice is, I don't want the loser, I want the strongest one? That's all she said to her dad. Give me the best one you can find. Is that enough of a choice for you? Like, let's say the woman said, Dad, I trust you. Just give me the best one. And he brings her first one. Is that wrong?
No, she's choosing.
Okay, perfect. So let's give that to every woman. Why can't we give that to every woman? Why can't we give every woman wants her dad to give her the best person in mind? Why is that not wrong?
It's about the choice. If that woman is not choosing,
but every woman wants the best man they can find, right or wrong?
Every woman wants you actually said it perfectly. Yes, the one that they can find. They don't like.
Okay. Now let's say the best man they can find rules over them. He took them as hostage. Now what you got to say?
It's not the best person for them. If they don't, it's all about their choice.
They don't get to choose. Just because they
get to choose. Right? Yes. If
but
they think it is, that's okay.
He's a fucking warrior. He's a monster. He just killed everybody in the village. and he's literally a man's man, and she feels extremely protected by him. Like the problem is, you're right now what you're arguing is every single human being that is married, a fallen soldier's wife is doing a wrong deed. That's what
No.
you're arguing.
My argument is that if there are any instances that choice is taken away from someone, I think that is a harm. Arranged marriage where a woman feels okay with the arranged marriage is okay. I think that arranged marriage where the woman isn't okay with it is wrong. But the Quran says the exact opposite from what I'm understanding. Same thing with sex. I think that if someone doesn't have a choice in sex, I feel like that is a wrong. But in the Quran, if they own them as the right hand possesses them, as we know from slavery, then they can't have sex with them, right?
But what if but back in the day the woman never ever made the decision. It was always the parents. So they never ever even made that decision. It was always their parents. They always had that like if they did feel like they had control, it was very little. You know what I mean? It was always the parents. Like even when it comes to a queen, she was supposed to marry a random dude that her dad picked her. So where can you tell basically the whole of your whole basically the whole history of the whole universe is immoral to you, and somehow today you woke up and you figured it out, and now you're finally okay.
Do I think that the whole history of the universe is immoral?
Yeah,
No,
because
I think
the
that
whole
any...
history of the universe, parents always pick their daughters' husbands. They most of the time they never even cared about them. Even the Zionists did the same thing to the Palestinian mandate, and they never cared about them. So a lot of people actually believe in the Zionism theory. So why can't they believe that the parents should actually also be allowed to make every decision for the parent? Like, where do you come from where the woman made the decisions every single time? Like, which part of history
I think
was the woman used to pick her husband?
I-
Which part of history the woman used to pick her husband? Tell
I
me.
think you're I think you're having a confusion of the point of choice and every choice. There are going to be people who don't want to make every choice for themselves, but that is their choice to make, right? There are going to be people who go to their parents and say, "I want a lover. I want you to arrange a marriage."
Okay, let me ask you this.
That's their
Let me ask
choice.
you. Let's say the girl never wants to get married. Is that okay? Do you agree with your daughter never getting married?
Again,
Let's say your daughter said, "My choice is I don't want to ever get married." Would you ever force her?
Based on what do you know about my morality, what do you think my answer is going to be to that?
You're gonna say, "Yeah, I'm not gonna force her,"
Because
but I'm
I don't
telling
like
you,
forcing
be an
people.
honest, consistent man.
Yeah.
Would you like your daughter to never be married and to be in the streets
it was
all by
her
herself
choice?
for the rest of her life?
Would I like her to be in the streets? That was a really
That's
weird
literally
ending.
it. Be in the streets, like me and you. We're in the streets all by ourselves trying to figure it out.
I would how do I? Okay, I think it's okay if
Like, you
my
prefer somebody
daughter...
protecting her or standing on guard, like being there for her because you're not there all the time, or do you just it's okay for you if she doesn't want to get married till she's 70? That's totally normal. That's cool.
Yeah, it's her choice. I feel like I don't have a place where I can authoritatively tell her what she can and can't choose, right?
You're her dad.
Yeah.
You are her dad. How could? What do you mean you don't have an authority over her?
This is going to be another major like religious disagreement that I know comes from the Quran, but
It's
I
not
don't...
even religious. I'm just asking like a logical way. How can you not have? You have to be the authority over her.
Why?
You are responsible over her.
Oh,
no?
after the age of 18 when they can make their own decisions. Why?
Even after 18. Even after 18, are you not responsible for her anymore? That's why we get them married, because we're still responsible until we get them married. That's why I get them married. 18 is just an arbitrary number you just created with this society. 18 was never a date, an age that decided that this woman became a woman. That never was like that. What it used to be, she was puberty. Let's get her married so we don't have to worry about her anymore, so her husband can worry about her. But today's age, it's totally different. The problem is, man, you all your morality is depending on today's age, and we're talking about 1400, 1,000 years ago moralities. And so we're definitely in conflict. Maybe today's age, yeah, the woman can live. Even today, I would not agree that a woman can live alone. I think it would create a lot of hardships for her. I think at some point, she would be like, "Fuck, I want to settle with anybody." Like after 30, like this, we see this trend all the time. At 35, 40, they'll take anybody. They'll take any. It used to be the only date, the best of the best. Now they'll take anyone. Where's the good guys? Where's all the good guys? Where's all?
What would you say if their father didn't want them to get married though, and they wanted to get married? Are they supposed to
I would
disobey
say
their
this
father?
is a failure of a father. I would say this father is failed.
Doesn't that show that then it's not the father doesn't have say over the daughter? Then it's objective, right?
Why is personal choice so important when it comes to
I think personal choice is important everywhere.
No. But why is personal choice so important? Like, why is my daughter's choice to not be married for 70 years better for her because she decided it all herself than me telling her the best thing to do is to get married at 20 and to have 10 kids so they can take care of you at 70? Like, why would I give my daughter the ability to choose when she knows nothing? I'm responsible over my daughter. I still don't understand how it's immoral for me to not allow my daughter to choose the wrong choice. How is that immoral?
Because you're choosing for them. Again, though, if we go back a little.
Yeah, but that's not how. But you're making it immoral. So the only reason that it's immoral is because they didn't make the choice.
Is yes, exactly. Yeah, I'm over free
That's
choice.
great.
Wait,
So
wait, let's go back then. Wait, let's go back.
So
If
that
the
means,
dad,
they can do crack. That's totally moral as long as they wanted to do it. And it didn't harm whoever.
there we go.
You
Now
wanted
you're on
to
harm.
Yeah,
If there's an instance where they're not committing harm unto themselves, yes.
Also,
Also,
you're consistent.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. There's no faultiness in my
Man, you
in
need
my
to wake
belief.
up. There's a
But
lot of
wait,
faultiness.
I can
It's
point
very
out faultiness in
subjective.
yours.
It's
If
very
a father
subjective.
Like,
It's very subjective. It's so easy for us to disagree. We'll never ever agree.
true, but you haven't found the fault. You haven't found somewhere where it changes. It's always been that flat line, right? But with you, if a father told a mother, or sorry, a father told a daughter that she shouldn't get married, then your opinion changes. Your morality changes. It's not the father should be able to have control over the daughter. It's that the father's a failure. See how it changed over that? Mine wouldn't change in that situation. Your morality did.
Yeah, but it changed because I actually believe certain people have rights over you, and they have certain. Sorry, I know this is taking so long, man. It's such an amazing
good.
conversation. We have to do this again, right?
Oh, we will. We're on. We've only hit
do
3 points of 6. You'll be back.
Well,
Trust.
my problem is I didn't like my first question, man. God damn, you have to hit me with the first question, but that was a tough question, man. But I you know, it's so crazy because I had read the systemic racism, but what it is they have two definitions. The Jews use one definition, and then the rest of the world uses another definition. That's where I was a little
Yeah,
bit
no.
confused.
If I'm
I needed
holding
to
you,
read the difference.
we're like triple over our time. If I'm holding you, you're free to go. I'd say.
Yeah, no problem. No. I'm really enjoying this, man. I'm really enjoying. I think you're actually genuine. You have really interesting concerns. I don't think you're like. I don't think
faith?
you're like bad faith in any way. I think you actually have really good questions. I think you're very smart. I think you've understood the world the way you understood it. I just believe that there's a little bit of faultiness. I think it's when you have I see you're consistent, yeah, but the problem is you're consistent with yourself. You're never consistent with me. Like me and you, we're always going to disagree, and we're never ever going to fall onto a place where we agree because you have a harm principle and my morality is totally guided differently. So we have to at least find which one of us has the better morality principle, and that's what I've been trying to argue the whole time. I've been trying to argue objective morality, in my opinion, is better than subjective morality because you and your daughter can make the wrong decisions, but God, it's very hard for him to do that.
True, but with my morality, every person gets free choice. Slavery would have never happened because that's a harm.
That's not better. That's not a better outcome. Just because everybody gets free choice to eat McDonald's,
Slavery would have
doesn't
never
mean
happened. Is that a better
society gets
outcome?
better. No. Our goal should be in morality because we're talking about right and wrong. We shouldn't be only talking about harm. We should be talking about moving society forwards as well because that's what's important. We should be talking about the breaking of the family and how important the family structure is to society. Because if all you care about is the personal choice, you're creating an individualistic society that can never be coherent with each other. Because everybody cares about their own choices and nobody can work with each other.
But wait, there's a major caveat in there though. Remember when it comes to other people, it's the same, right? You shouldn't do harm to others, which you would do to yourself. So you are treating people the same as you would yourself. I feel like that's so much better than in the Quran, where you can take ownership over some people and take away their rights, right?
So you're telling me the Israelis would do what they're doing to Gaza to themselves? No, they wouldn't. It's just
exactly.
That,
yes, I agree with you. Yeah, I'm not going to stand here and say what they're doing is
see
moral.
What I mean?
Yeah,
like, we could.
I agree.
It's just going to be inconsistent.
It's
consistent.
consistent.
Be some inconsistent. So that's better. That's why I'm telling you. I think it's so important to have an objective morality that cannot we cannot alter or differ on this. We just agree immediately. The only people we can marry are the people that we killed their husbands and we're taking care of them now, or our spouses. That's it. We cannot fuck anybody else in the middle of the war. We agree there. Then we agree. We can in the middle of the war zone. We cannot touch trees and hurt them. Okay, we agree there. Then we cannot attack women. This is all because of objective morality. It's not because of subjective morality. We're using subjective morality. You can actually argue to kill every single woman in the city, to kill every single horse, because it's creating harm for us. Because those people are murdering us. They're nonstop attacking us. We need to defend ourselves. So using the harm principle, I can literally justify genocides and murders and high massacres.
But you can't. You tried that earlier. You couldn't find the fault. If you have actually, then here's a perfect opportunity. If you have a hypothetical in which you can point out my morality and like the end answer of my morality changing, do you have a hypothetical where you could do that?
Yeah. I'll give it to you right now. Let's say I'm sitting in Palestine, and the Houthis jumped on top of my roof, and they started planting bombs, and then they wanted to murder me. So
Who the
I
Hamasis or
got
the
up.
Hamas wanted to
I
kill
got
you?
up and I started. I got up, and instead of I got up, and because they were gonna murder me, I went ahead and I murdered every single one of their family members and their kids' family members and their daughters and their sons' daughters. Every part of their family is done. I justify it for myself because they were gonna murder me. How
But
can you tell
again,
me I did wrong? They were gonna
because
murder
the
me.
harm way out was the harm. Those children weren't going to murder you. Those families weren't going to murder you. You are morally
Their whole
justified.
family was plotting to murder me. How do you know they weren't going to murder me? I'm telling you right now, it was in their charter. It's their charter. It says they want to murder
So what
me
you're saying
in
is
this
this
home.
entire family's bloodline wanted to murder this specific person, and would it be
One,
moral?
it's literally, you know how the Rothschilds' goal was to create Israel. That the Al-Mukhari family, whatever that is, their goal was to murder me inside this home. That's literally their heirloom. They have books. When they read incantations of magic, they're trying to send it to me, and that's literally what their goal is to destroy my home, this home right here. They just want me out of there. Uh, is it bad that I murdered the whole every single part of the family so I can protect myself and my family and also my bloodline? Not only my family, by the way, my bloodline as well.
If
So
I'm
I send my bloodline to murder them. Is that wrong?
if I'm lining up your hypothetical correctly, your hypothetical is that if someone is plotting murder against you or a group of people is plotting murder against you, is it okay for you to stop that? Yes.
Annihilate it. Stomp on its head.
Yeah, if someone's trying to kill you, I think you're morally justified in trying to stop that. Yes. No matter, it doesn't matter the quantity of people.
Okay. See, this is see. You don't even need the story. You just need to know that
It's all about harm
I'm in
reduction.
my
Yes.
home and they came to kill me. You don't need to know anything. You don't need to know that the history of the conflict. You don't need to know. So, for example, for Islam, this is a totally non-negotiable. You cannot do this. We do not. The objective morality forces us. You're not allowed to touch kids. So how do I know this is wrong that I did this? It's because kids got harmed.
Exactly. Yeah. Same
Okay.
outcome.
Okay, but for you, we could switch that up. We could make it the number one problem that this is wrong is that I'm dead, not that the kids are dead. So when it comes to subjective morality, whoever is the biggest group and is gonna feel the biggest harm, they can create the right and wrong based on that harm. So, but objective morality will always tell you you cannot murder those kids, even if these kids are gonna come murder your kids. You just let it happen, and then
Doesn't the
you deal with it
Quran
when it
allow
happens.
self-defense?
No, self-defense happens. Self-defense. Somebody has to be.
Exactly. Someone trying to kill you. Yeah,
Somebody
that
has
was
to
your
be running up
hypothetical.
to you. You cannot just go and murder somebody.
Self-defense
So yeah,
doesn't.
I can murder the people on top of my roof, but I cannot go and find his family members and start shooting
Your
them down.
hypothetical was that
I
they were trying to
cannot go
kill you.
and blow up his house. That's because my objective morality is telling me this is wrong. But subjective morality would tell me this is the right thing to do if I want to keep my family alive. If this is their goal is to get rid of me, that would subjective morality would tell me you should do that. But I'm telling you, objective morality would force me to not do that.
I think the Quran and me have the same outcome.
In the detriment to myself. In the detriment to myself. Can you believe that?
But wait, so the Quran allows self-defense. The what you just described to me was self-defense.
Yeah, but what you described to me is the bloodline removal. What I'm trying to tell you is a massacre. A massacre is not the same as self-defense.
You said
self-defense. Yeah, I can kill the people on top of my roof, but I cannot go and find their kids. That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah, but I even asked you for a caveat. I even said, is every single person in that bloodline trying to kill you?
Yeah, they're trying to kill you. They're trying to kill you, but that doesn't mean you're gonna go find them. You still have to just sit there waiting in your home until they come.
But that's self-defense. We agree.
Okay, yeah, but you don't go and find those and murder the kids. You're not gonna go and blow up their homeland. You're not gonna go blow up their mother, their daughter, their sister.
Yeah, that wouldn't be defending yourself. That'd be vigilantism. If you went, what you're describing now is this person going out of their way.
But for me, if I was subjective morality, I could explain to you that I think that's the right thing to do. I think we should absolutely eliminate this family from the existence because they're trying to eliminate my family, and my family has much more prominence in the area. We're helping the community a lot more. We actually are pro this society, and these guys are hooligans. They're just trying to get rid of me.
Here's what I do have one question about this. What do you think is self-defense described as in the Quran? Do you think that it can only mean in that specific instance, or do you think as a caveat, as a group of people can perform self-defense?
So self-defense, you have to have gotten attacked right then and there immediately.
So
like your family got, like, basically the Arabic world got attacked at that point. You cannot, that's like you have to be attacked. That's what self-defense is. You cannot basically kind of preliminary, like what is it? Pre-self-defense, like, oh,
yeah,
like
Hitler,
would we kill Hitler as a baby? The answer is fuck no. We would never, ever even think about it.
Here's my question then. The people who committed October 7th, who did not have family members of them die from Israel, were they committing, was that self-defense or what?
So to me, I believe that October 7th, Hamas, those guys, that's 100% self-defense. Those guys died as martyrs. They die and they go to heaven. Can you believe that? They die immediately, they go to heaven, and their blood will never be wiped out.
How is it self-defense though?
Why? Tell me why. Who in his right mind would decide to grab a glider, glide into the enemy's territory, which has been illegally occupied, by the way? This is illegal occupied territory. Wherever they landed, they did not land inside Israel. They landed inside settlements. So it's like four miles away from Gaza. They land there. The first thing he does, doesn't kill civilians, looking for IDF soldiers to kill. Looking for IDF soldiers to kill. There was many civilians. They did not die. They immediately were hostage. But if they were about killing everybody, they would be killing everybody. But they did not. They immediately started putting citizens up. And so to me, because they followed the rules of law that God gave them, which was you can protect your homeland. These guys have been murdering you. Before October 7th, there was an attack. Like October 6th,
I'm talking about specific people. You said that there has to be a specific connection in self-defense. My opinion is that there doesn't have to be.
So you're telling me every Hamasi doesn't live in Gaza?
What I'm saying is that
whenever his family doesn't live in Gaza, or doesn't have a mother that died, or a father that died from the attacks, like, look, they got attacked and then you retaliate. Yeah. So
what I said was,
it could take some time. It could take some time, but you're still a martyr if you die.
What I said was during your hypothetical is that if those people were trying to kill you, they are justified, and you are justified in committing self-defense, right? You said that, but they are not directly attacking you. And I said, what do you mean by directly attack? You said it has to be an attack on a person, being yourself, or a family member.
October 6th, there was an attack.
But do you fully believe that every single person in Hamas that did that attack had a direct link to that attack?
Yes, I believe every single Hamasi has a dead brother, dead sister, dead cousin, dead uncle, dead father. One person at least dead in their family, dead friend. Somebody died in their family that got them to switch immediately. I don't believe they just woke up one day and they're like, okay, I'll be in Hamas. I think that one of their family members died and they switched. So yeah, what's more direct attack than that?
So then in that instance,
so I do believe every Hamasi has been 100% hurt by the idea.
If there was a Hamas member who did not have a family member of theirs killed by Israel, but does know that this collective Israel is doing harm to them as a collective, are they okay in doing self-defense collectively?
Yeah, they're okay.
That was my entire argument that you didn't agree with?
What argument?
Whenever I said that collectively, if these people are plotting to kill you, you can kill them. You said there has to be a direct attack, but now you're saying...
To the Arabic world, I said to the Arabic world. I said to the Muslim, like Arabic, the Muslim nation. Anybody, you attack somebody in Turkey, us Muslims, we can respond to it. You attack somebody in Morocco, us Muslims can respond to it. You get me? It has to be in the Muslim nation. But for you to do an attack in, I don't know, in Russia, and for us Muslims to jump up there, no, we are not allowed that.
What if it's a Muslim attacked in Russia?
Huh?
What if it's a Muslim that is attacked in Russia?
Then 100%. And mostly, what you don't understand is most of the conflict is actually against Islam. I mean, you have to understand World War I, it was against the Muslim Empire, the Ottoman Empire. And since then, every single World War was about had to do with the Arabs or the Muslims in some way, and it's going to be like that in World War III as well. It's going to be literally in Palestine, and so it's always involving Arabs. Every single one of these attacks is involving Arabs, so we're always having justified to move forward. Yep.
So then, don't you agree with my hypothetical then, or the hypothetical that you brought to me that you disagreed
But my
initially?
hypothetical is different because I have different criteria. Your criteria is some kind of harm. My criteria is they already
Harm.
did the harm, and we need to protect our nation.
But
They're
can't you defend
continuing
yourself
to do the
in the
harm,
act?
and they won't agree. They won't agree with diplomacy as well. There's one thing I caveat I forgot about. So there's a couple of criterias. They have to be doing harm for you. They have to not accept any more diplomacy, and they have to be continuously looking to do harm to you. And then the whole Arabic world can come together. Yes.
So then, in my instance, how does that not fit the criteria? You said that this person, so self-defense can be done during the attack, right? You agree?
Because we all agree that the occupied lands.
I'm talking about the hypothetical. I'm talking about the hypothetical.
Oh, you're talking about the hypothetical. Oh, well, I was bringing back the hypothetical to Gaza, but sure, we can go back to the. I was trying to connect the hypothetical to Gaza.
But then, yeah,
which is what I told you. We blow up the whole family heirloom, which happens all the time in Gaza.
But the thing is, then do you believe that a person in Gaza, if Israel is literally, as the pro-Palestinian side believes, is Israel is actually pursuing a genocide against the Palestinians, although they're, in this instance, in this hypothetical, no harm has been done to them directly, no harm has been done to their family, but there has been done to the Arab people as a whole. Are they justified in defending themselves? But the harm hasn't happened yet. I'm saying that it's going to occur.
Give me can you give me a scenario in the real world that I can
There's a person in Gaza on the street. They pick up a gun. They go into their house. They see an IDF soldier walking in.
So the second you tell me a person in Gaza, he's a martyr. He's ready to die. He has every right to die for his country. The second you tell me Gaza, they're already displaced. They're already destroyed. They only own 12%, I think, left of the Palestinian lands. Every single one of their parents died. If he lives in Gaza, he's seen destruction. He's seen a lot of his family already die. He's lost his home. What else does he have? What else? Actually, every single Arab, I should be standing up and fighting with him.
But okay, then let me give you it without Gaza then. So if that's a big point,
don't give me Gaza because Gaza 100% they are allowed.
There is, so you are in your house, okay, and then you see a person who is obviously displaying intent, and the way you come to that intent is that in the past, people of that group have attacked people of your group, and you know that they have a plan to attack you and your group. Are you justified in picking up your weapon and shooting them? Is if you are 100% sure that it is a factual statement that he is coming to commit harm to you?
So did he already commit any harm?
No, but you know that the group that he comes from has, and that it is factual that he is there to do the harm, but he himself has not done any harm to you.
But he's like a group, like he's a Zionist. Like, can I link it there? He's a Zionist.
Well, the problem is if we link it, then it gets a little more descriptive.
I'm just saying, okay, let's
just say he's a group of let's just say he's a part of a group that is a militant group that is there to do that.
Yeah, but they attacked me before. They attacked me. The group attacked me.
They've attacked your group before. Never you directly. Never anyone you know. Just the group, and you know that. But this person has never done that. This person
and then
has
what happened? How did I catch him?
You didn't catch him. The point is that he has never done any harm. But he is there to do harm. You know that, okay? Are you justified in shooting him if he is from that group that has done harm in the past and is there to do harm?
Yes.
Then yeah. So earlier in my hypothetical, whenever you said this person was going to kill my entire family and then my bloodline, and you said this group of people is going to do it, and then I said, then you are justified in killing them. Earlier you said no, but then there you have the same answer.
Yeah, but you justified killing all their babies.
You said no. I caveated that every single person is plotting to kill you.
Yeah, exactly. But
a baby can't plot to kill you. A baby can't plot to kill you.
No, because you're not understanding this. Like, so this is what you're not understanding. Well, there's a difference between the act of war and then the law of war. So we have laws of war. So the act of war is somebody aggressed on me. Then when that happens, then we engage in a war. And when we engage in a war, there's laws for the war.
Of course.
I can't hurt trees. I can't hurt elderly men. I can't hurt babies. I can't hurt children. I can't bring down houses. I can't topple down temples. I cannot rape I cannot steal. I cannot just bring corruption and destruction. Just sit there. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the Romans used to do. So we have laws of engagement, and you, as a subjective morality, you don't have that. You just
I
do
do.
whatever.
You said,
you don't.
wait. Can a baby have the intent to kill someone?
No.
Okay, so then whenever I asked, does every single person in that bloodline have the intent to kill? Doesn't that mean that every single person in that bloodline is not a baby and is plotting to kill me?
No, but you know that his parents are teaching him. You know that he has his school is giving him, is teaching him. You know that basically it's kind of like the baby Hitler scenario. For you, you actually would kill baby
I
Hitler.
wouldn't. Hitler
wouldn't
as
kill
a
baby
baby.
Hitler.
Hitler as a baby has done no harm.
So you actually subjective morality. You actually with the subjective morality argument would not kill baby Hitler. Actually, subjective morality would that not disagree with you?
Nope, because it's at what the harm they're committing. What harm is baby Hitler committing at that moment?
So this is what I'm talking about.
It's all been objective. I haven't
Islam
changed.
is so logical. Islam is so logical.
Baby
I
Hitler has
swear to
committed
God.
no harm. I don't know how we got to baby
We're
Hitler.
so close. We're so close.
You're not
the only
allowed.
difference is
You're
the
never.
only difference is, huh?
Okay, you're never allowed to commit harm onto a person because you believe that in 20 years they're going to commit harm upon you.
That's weird because I know a lot of atheists that would murder baby Hitler.
True, and there definitely are, but I'm
There's a
different than
lot of
most people.
subjective. I've asked this question a lot, and they're like, yeah, I'll do it.
Of course, but that's because they see it. They see everything as a net. They think that killing that one baby is net value is one life, okay? And then the net value of the millions of people that die in the Holocaust. That's how they view it, right? It's a net value. That's a completely different morality spectrum. I view things as.
So the only reason you believe the baby should not be killed is because he doesn't have an intent.
Because he's done no harm. My entire thing is harm. What harm has that baby done? Same thing with the other argument. You said intent to kill. Baby can't have an intent to kill.
So I have a question. Let's say people are not, they didn't harm you now, but they're plotting on harming you. And it was very close to what happened with Prophet Muhammad. He was kicked out of his country, and then they started plotting to take him out. So my question is, do you believe they haven't attacked you yet? But they're bringing in, they're talking about it. They're bringing in soldiers. They're getting everybody ready. They're training people. Do you have a right to start attacking their caravans and start creating corruption and destruction for them, or do you just wait for them to come and attack you?
Have they committed
and
any
basically
harm?
Wait for them to become strong and come get rid of you?
Have they committed any harm before that point?
They have not. They've done a couple of small pieces. They've announced that they're coming after you. They've kicked you out of your home. Like you were living there, they kicked you out, but now you're peacefully living there. But they announced that they're gonna come to you and get you because it's just gonna take some time. It's gonna take a couple of years for them to get their armies.
Okay, give me a second. It's a very descriptive question. I gotta think. I think now I can reconcile where the problem is. Okay. The problem with the hypothetical that I realize is that because what's happening is you're putting the problem before the actual problem. There shouldn't, in my morality, if my morality is applied to everywhere, there would have never been a people to do that. Right? So it's like, that's the same thing with slavery. There would never, so what I'm saying.
So wait a minute. Are you telling me that my understanding is all imperialist states are libertarian?
No.
They all have your same subjective morality.
They're
Every single one is
insanely
an
not
enlightened
libertarian.
state. It's an all enlightened states.
America is nowhere near libertarian.
No, it's an enlightened. Like they use the enlightened theory. Like they're from the enlightened era. You know what I mean? Like the
kind of, but it's nowhere near libertarian.
The Immanuel Kant kind of line.
America, you can say America is very liberal, but liberal and libertarian are two very key different things, right?
Yeah, but you guys, but like the West in general, you guys follow, and every imperialist state follows the no harm principle, doesn't it?
No.
Then wait. So where does America get its morality from?
What do you mean? Like America as
My
as
understanding
a people,
was that America gets its morality from the same subjective morality you're getting it from, the harm principle. They just add to it that there's a happiness as well.
No, America gets, I don't know what you're talking about. America as a people, obviously that changes from person to person. America legally gets their morality. Well, legally there is no morality. There is legality.
what about the imperialist states? What's their morality? Like, for example, I'll tell you, the Muslims, their morality is objectives from the Quran. America used to have objective morality when you use church, like
True,
church
but
and
we're
state.
no longer at that point.
But so what? Where do you get your morality today? Like, where is it coming from? If it's not the harm principle, which is what I thought all imperialist states were, I thought all of them were enlightened, and from the enlightened theory, basically, is the libertarian theory, this of the no harm principle.
Yeah, no.
The libertarian morality theory.
Libertarian morality is a very, well, not that, I would say it's somewhat common, but it's not like as a whole that's what people believe. It's a very much of a melting pot of different moralities.
Yeah. But what about, what's your government's more like? How does this government know what's right and wrong?
Legally, that's how they go by everything. There's no morality in governments acting. It's only the
but
legality.
They use the harm principle, right? They would try to
Not
reduce
everything.
harm in every way.
No.
Then why is trans movement so big if it's not about reduction harm? That's literally their only caveat, is it reduces suicide. That's literally it.
Can children get trans surgeries?
No, I don't agree with that.
Exactly.
But I think they do.
But if they were libertarian, they would have that view, right? Or if you were completely
but I think
libertarian.
they are. They're moving to it. You know what I mean?
But not everyone has that, and neither does the government. It's illegal in the government to do that. You're asking about the government.
But that's because you have subjective morality, and your subjective morality is evolving. It's very easy for it to evolve there.
Every morality evolves. We already agreed about that. Slavery was around in the Quran.
Morality stopped evolving.
I don't think it has.
Still evolving.
Well, where do you form your opinion on transgender people in the Quran if it's never mentioned?
It's because it's a filth. Where does
it say that?
It's an abomination that God said to you cannot alter your body in any way. So whenever you start altering your body, like I don't believe like these plastic surgeries are good.
What about your surgery? You altered your body in that surgery.
Oh, that's what I told you in the beginning. Remember, I told you when my morality, when it comes to me being alive and happy, and when I'm almost dead, totally two different moralities. God will forgive me. God will forgive me that I did the surgery, that I almost died, that I needed that surgery. But God would not allow it to just remove a little bit of fat so I can make myself happy. No.
So it changes.
But it only changes when two circumstances. One, when you're like dying, of course, then all morality is acceptable.
So exactly, every morality changes.
But that's not how every country is supposed to live. Every country is not supposed to live like it's dying.
I don't think there's any way any country is
would
supposed
never
to
be
live.
able to succeed. Like for example, when you're dying, you start doing some drastic stuff. You do drastic measures. Okay, you're like you eat stuff. You do drastic measures when you're dying. That's what I mean. Like you go to another level. Like if I'm not allowed to eat pork, but I'm about to die, and there's a pig in front of me, God would forgive me. He would still forgive me if I died and not eaten the pork. Actually, no, I actually believe, I'm not sure about
I think
this.
suicide is against it, right?
That might actually be suicide.
It would be,
that actually might be suicide. I actually am not sure, but that might be suicide. I need to look into the scholars, what they think. So that's how close it is. So yeah, the morality switches, but not on your whim. It switches only when you are gonna die. And that's why we're allowed war and only defensively, because what happens is it switches. We're not allowed to ever be in war, but there's something switches when we're getting attacked, and we have to protect ourselves. So that's not the natural states to be in attack mode, though.
I know, but then again, yeah, your morality though switches. Whereas when it comes to mine, as you said before, my morality. The problem with my morality is it is very consistent, but now you're saying that consistency is what's needed in morality. But then when you go to your own morality, there is two different morality scales that you go by.
Yeah, but they're very consistent with each other. For example,
they're very different.
If
one's
I
not
don't
never
attack
eating
anybody,
ham.
I don't
One
attack
is.
anybody. I don't attack anybody. But if somebody's attacking me, then I can start attacking him. But then I still have rules. I can't kill his kids. I can't do his stuff. Yeah, okay, maybe I can't eat every pork. But what happens is the second I'm back alive, I can't eat pork anymore. Stop. You can't have it anymore.
But those are two very different things. Eating pork and not eating pork are literally the complete opposite of the spectrums. That's a change.
But what changed was my state of being. I almost was dying. I needed to exist. So I had to get to drastic measures, but I don't live on those drastic measures for the rest of my life. That's not how you live.
But
You're not allowed to do that.
My morality doesn't have states of change, though.
Yeah, but that's a little bit destructive then, because you can always be on an attention state. You're always on like a very weary state, and you can now declare national security, safety, security concerns on every single nation around you. You don't have to find any proof.
I don't believe in that though. I don't believe in. I know you mentioned earlier Israel and their national state
You
thing. I
don't
don't agree
believe in
with
that,
that.
but your government does. That's what your
I'm not my
government does.
government.
Literally, every time they find any problem in national security, we need to bring them democracy. We need to bring our Western values to them. That's how your country is doing. It's literally acting like it's on death mode all the time. It's like,
Yeah, but there are going to be things that people's governments do that they don't agree with. That's how
and plus,
everything
you never
is.
proved to me that your morality switches between you being alive, normal, and you dying.
Yeah,
You never
because it
proved to me
doesn't.
that you're switching.
I will. Yeah, but true. But you bring in me multiple instances. If you think you can find a flaw, you're very well welcome to bring one up. But you've tried multiple times, and every single time we've agreed at the end that it stayed
I brought to you
consistent.
multiple flaws. Subjective morality can't even explain the creation of the universe.
No, I'm talking about when I mentioned there is that of course morality can explain the creation of the universe. So that's not a moral question.
Oh, yeah.
What I'm
Sure,
saying
sure.
is you could never point out an instance in which my morality changes. That's what I'm saying. That's like my key component. I think that whenever you start caveating changes, that's when it gets problem because then there is subjectivity. What is going to kill you is if a child is punching you at the knee, is that self-defense if you kill them?
No, of course not.
But doesn't that fit the Quran's requirements of
No,
harm?
no.
What requirement is that not? Isn't the three requirements you said still committing harm, no acceptance of diplomacy, and then I forgot the third one. What's the third one?
Yeah. What was it? It was no harm, and they have to do it in the future. They have to be committed to do it in the future.
Yeah, so if he's committed to punching you in the knee, you've tried to tell him to stop, he hasn't, and he's just punching you in the knee, committing harm. Are you
Then
justified in
you
killing
need
him?
to- You push him away, and you get out of there. Like there's also a proportionality principle. Like if I can just move my finger and you fall, I'm not gonna bring you my bazooka.
But if you killed that kid, are you justified from the Quran?
No, you're not.
How if you followed every single guideline in the Quran? Because it never said in self-defense that it has to be
those guidelines only
proportional.
exist when you're dying. This is what you don't understand. They only exist when you're dying. There has to be an actual act of force. You have to be proving that act of force. You haven't proved that this kid's creating an act of force upon you. If you can push him and he falls, that's not an act of force. You have full control over this kid.
But I
You
thought
can
the whole
act like the kid is hurting you, and oh my god, I need to stop it, blah blah blah. But we all know the kid is doing zero damage to you. Like, I mean,
But
there's
that's
a
not
lot
a
of kids I would love
requirement.
to beat up, but I'm not gonna beat up every kid because I would step on all their heads.
There isn't a fourth caveat in self-defense though, that it's the proportionality, which it probably should have. I don't know if there is an actual.
No, because I told you that my morality only switches when I'm dying, and I'm not dying. So proportionality is actually related to that. So if the kid is killing me, I have full rights to murder. If he has a knife and he's stabbing into my knee, yeah, and when I fall, he's gonna start stabbing into my neck. But it relates to proportionality is me dying. I'm not dying, so
What if
I'm totally normal. I'm living happy. The kid just came bothered me. I just ask that God forgives him and I move on.
what if you're being robbed and there is no chance of death? Are you allowed to do self-defense there? Because they are committing harm, but there is no chance of death. Are you just supposed to stand there and accept it?
Yeah, but that's because robbery is wrong, not because so it's normal. It's robbery is wrong all throughout my morality. It doesn't matter if except if I'm dying, then I'm allowed to rob.
It changes, yeah.
But hey, by the way, you're not allowed to rob. God will still punish you for that. That one I think God will punish you for, because he will find you a way. Like okay, if you're in the middle of the desert and a pork appears, yeah, sure. But robbery, you'll always find a way to not need to rob. So robbery, no, robbery. It's already consistent. He's already.
But wait, you just showed when it changed.
Hmm?
You just showed
But
a change
no,
there.
but you said you're not trying to kill me, so it didn't change.
No. What I'm saying is though, even in that instance, there was a change throughout it. Are
No,
you?
no, it didn't change because you told me they're just coming to rob me. It's already wrong, so I would never allow that already.
Wait,
so already
how do
they're
you
gonna
stop?
be
How do you stop the
tackled.
robbery?
Yeah, I would stop him.
How? By self-defense, right?
I would tackle him, and if he has a sword, I would stab him in the eye.
But wait, he was not there to kill
Because
you
he was
though.
gonna murder me.
What if he wasn't? Are you supposed to let the robbery happen?
No, you. What you do is you catch him, and they cut his right arm.
How do you
or
catch
left-
him?
Wait, which? Huh?
Do you catch him with force?
Yeah, 100%. Why not? You step on his head.
Okay. So do you see how that's changed now though? You've gone through three separate
changed?
answers.
What
So
changed? I'm telling you, robbery is wrong. So from the beginning, you're supposed to stop it. The only reason that I was fearful is you said he might have a knife. You said no, there's no knife. That's it. You're stopping the robbery.
No. What I'm saying is though, there every single time it change. Okay, so what if it's
And you
robbery?
step on the guy's head. Yeah, why not?
What if someone robs someone with a gun? Okay, for a piece of bread, or they're gonna die. Is that okay? Because you said the amount of changes.
So who's doing it? So the
So,
guy
there's
that's
a kid.
robbing is
I'll give you
gonna
a
die.
hypothetical.
He's gonna be punished by God because God. This is a test from God.
But wait, let's say this kid is a like 12-year-old kid. He's starving, okay? He goes and holds up a vendor that has food and takes the food and he plans to give it to people, even a goodwill act. He will eat some himself, he'll give some to starving families. But he's doing it with a gun so he can show him that he means business and he's robbing him. Is that an okay thing that he did?
Very, very bad, very bad. You cannot take from somebody else even to feed the hungry. You cannot take from somebody needy to feed the hungry. Even if you take from somebody rich, you cannot do that to feed the hungry. That's against the God's law.
So robbery in every instance is wrong, even if you're going to
100%
die.
Essentially wrong. So this is the thing, by the way. So what you're not understanding is God is testing you also. So when He puts the pork in front of me in the middle of the desert, maybe He's testing me. Maybe how is it possible that only a pig showed up when I'm not supposed to eat pig? Maybe that's a test from God. So I really actually don't believe that that's suicide. You can actually not eat the pig, and you would actually be not suicidal. But what's happening is I'm so weak in faith. I'm telling you, my morality switches because God allows it. Okay, and I have proof that God allows it. For example, the first two casualties in the Quran was a mother and a father of a slave. Both of them were enslaved by the uncle of the all three of them were enslaved by the uncle of Prophet Muhammad. And he was so mad that they accepted Islam, he started torturing them in public, torturing. And it got so bad that he actually murdered the mother and the father of the kid in front of the kid. And he left the kid alive. So one day the Prophet Muhammad was walking, and the kid is sad and sitting there all by himself crying. And he's like, Prophet Muhammad, you know, I'm 100% a Muslim, but do you allow me to lie this one time? You know, Prophet Muhammad started to cry. He said, yes, I do. And then basically he went and he lied and he told the guy, I'm not Muslim anymore, so he can let him go. So look, some people have ill faith, but are you going to tell me that the two that died, they are actually not martyrs because they were tested? They were supposed to just say that they're not Muslims anymore. No, God still forgives them. God still gives them the biggest treasures, and they were tested. They just got a different resolution. I have weak faith. I will switch my faith. A lot of people don't. A lot of people jump into the middle of the ocean when they're tested. So, but I'm telling you, this is me. But I'm not like every Muslim. But yeah, we're talking about Islam in general. In general, you're allowed to escape those kinds of situations if they're gonna murder you, if they're gonna end up with your death. But most Muslims don't want to do that. Most Muslims will meet their death happy. And does that mean that God's gonna be angry at them? No. So it switches with me because God allows it to switch with me, but that doesn't mean it switches with everybody. And that you know what I mean? So you need to be very careful. So what I'm talking about is it's allowable, it's doable, but that doesn't mean it happens all the time. A lot of people just die. They just go for it. They never eat the pork. I don't believe that God would take them. I don't think they're martyrs. Because then you would have to say that those two were martyrs that died, and I don't believe that they were martyrs. Or sorry, they weren't martyrs, even though they died because they kept their religion. And so but so you know what I mean? So you could save yourself, but that doesn't mean the whole religion changes. It's just a moment of time. You have low faith, you change, but in your heart, you know you're Muslim. In your heart, you know the truth. But for small instinct, for a small second, you changed. That's doable all the time. And I can give you a lot of proofs, just like the one I gave you, Omar.
I feel
His
like
parents were killed, and he was allowed to just tell a lie.
I wouldn't really want to see about this hypothetical, and then we'll try to wrap because we're triple over our length.
You should do it.
We got to. I'll have you on again.
But I just love talking religion. I love talking LGBT.
Okay.
I love talking about the trans and Israel.
If someone, so you said robbery is wrong in all instances. If someone is forced and their only option is robbery, is it wrong then?
So you have to give me examples because
Okay.
when you say stuff like that, I in my head I see a scenario, but maybe you're seeing another scenario. You know.
It's just they're going to starve to death if they don't steal this instance of food. Is their only option death?
Okay, this is a very interesting
Because
situation.
before, whenever we said if that child was starving, could he go commit robbery? He couldn't, but he did have a gun. There was force.
So
This time
if
there's
they
no
are-
force.
If they are low faith, they like me, they would go and rob. and then they would ask forgiveness. They would realize this is not the norm. We should not do this all the time. I should probably get a job, but they would do it just to survive. But I know a lot of strong people would never ever commit that. They were 100% on faith, and they will never change.
So doesn't that kind of highlight the difference though? Because you both have read the same Quran, but you guys have both different opinions, and you think that they're both right, right?
Yeah, but you have to understand there's nuances in humanity. Like not every human has the same personality.
Of course.
And so actually, this is proof that this religion is pretty profound, allowing these nuances in decision making. Like this is proof that it's not just like you stuck in the middle of the, you know what I mean, stuck in a between the pendulum right in the middle. No, it's actually interchangeable. You can have good days and you can have bad days, and during the good days you do certain things, during the bad days it's actually a live religion to me. And by the way, yeah, you have to prove a lot of things. You have to prove that you were dying. You have to prove that everything was wrong with you. And still, if you get caught being robbing, you can still have to deal with the law of the land. So me, what I deal with personally and what I'm dealing with when it comes to society is totally different things. So this is what I tell you: you can do bad things between you and God. That's between you and God. Just try not to bring it to society. So look, if you're dying and you're robbing and nobody's figuring out about it, okay, that's I tell you, this at least less miserable than everyone knows that you're the robber, and now they have to be worried about you coming to rob their house and you're creating issues for them. You see what I mean? So even when you do that bad, you still have criteria. You're not allowed to just rob everybody. And even if you do rob, you're still gonna have to confess to God and ask for forgiveness. It's not like yeah, you had to do it as a last state, but there's still rules. Like you're still following the religion. You're not just well, it doesn't matter anymore. I was gonna die, so robbery is good. That's it.
I feel like then
You would never rob again. Like you would rob one time, and then for the you shouldn't be able. Like if you're telling me, oh, I almost was dead, and then I had to rob now. And then I robbed tomorrow too, and I robbed after. I'll be like, "What the fuck? This is totally what you're doing is totally against the religion. You're gonna go to hell 100%." But if you're telling me, "Oh my God, I was my mom just died. I had this issue and I lost my car, and I really was so hungry. I just needed this piece of bread, and I asked for forgiveness." After I'll be like, "Okay, God, inshallah, will forgive you. I will pray for you that God forgives you as well, and hopefully He will take care of you after." But to ask this is the daily habit, no, that's very wrong.
then I think that this actually leads to, I think we can actually end up on agreement then that the results of morality are always going to be, well, not always, but can be different even if you guys are viewing the same thing. I think we can both agree because we don't know what comes beforehand. So when it comes to morality, there is kind of a subjectiveness that always will come with it, right? Because there's going to be an instance where someone wouldn't die and they have to eat, or sorry, when someone would die and they have to eat, but there's gonna be someone where they wouldn't and they would, and that's where the subjectiveness kind of comes out.
I know, but where we're disagreeing is at the nuances of being alive. But we can't even agree. Sorry, where we're agreeing is where the nuances of being alive. We're disagreeing on how to normally work in society. We can't even agree on if there should be like we should agree. Is there are LGBTQ good for society or not? Can we agree there?
Probably not.
See, we can't even agree there. So we ever agree on these small nuances that don't matter really. You know, oh man, I almost died. Yeah, is robbery okay or not? No, maybe yeah. Depends on harm principle. But we can't even because you're using the harm principle and I'm using my objective merit. We can't agree on the biggest issues that would matter the most. Is October 7 genocide from the Palestinian side, or is it genocide from the Israeli side? Is LGBTQ, is this a good movement for the kids, or is this a horrible movement that's destroying society? We can't even agree on like the most basics, and I really would love to talk a little bit more about this.
I was gonna say, if we can't end an agreement, I guess we'll have to be seeing you on a few more times, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
Can we agree there's one God?
I think that I'll give you this. If there's a God, I do think there would have to be one. I'll give you that one, okay?
There would be one, right?
There
because
would be
two
one.
would kill each other.
I think that if in all
Or
likelihood,
they would kill their own creations.
I was gonna say if there is a God, it would probably be a singular God, much less than multiple. Although though, you know, with me, you're gonna have a lot with that. But as us now, we gotta wrap up because we're 3 times over our length. We hope to see you again. I think this confirms that we will be seeing you again. Where should people go to see more of you though? Before then,
my brother, I have this small little channel on YouTube, Manar Reports. We try to do daily streams now. We're coming back strong. We like to cover basically what I like to look at is the westernization effects on the West. So what I like to see is the different what's happening in your school systems, what's happening in your political discourse, what's happening in your Congress, what's happening foreign affairs wise when it comes to the Western. Like the Western picture, and I'm always very interested in seeing the differences that we have. I mean, it's absolutely huge differences when you're. This is why I believe it all starts with the subjective and objective morality. I think we have to agree that scripture has to be the only morality because it's gonna be. We're never gonna agree on creating a society that works for anybody, and we're always gonna create these small little problems and somehow find the huge drifts that will never ever. My God, I know they use religion to say that we're getting drifted, but also we can use atheism, secularism to drift from each other. Very, very heavy. You see the drift between trends and conservatives. And so we got to be very careful. I think this Western society is falling very quickly. It's actually very, very exasperated. I think Gen Z is done. I think Gen Z is gone. Okay, they have no way to survive anymore. And so I really believe these are very important issues. I really believe we should keep talking about this. And yeah, stop by Manar Reports, guys, and we'll talk.
With that being said, I hope you have a great day.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you.